We're just so grateful. That was beautiful. I can't get over Vino, Vino, Vino. I'll be singing that even to my children this evening. Vino, 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 Vino. Greetings, everyone. Sanbonani. Good morning, everyone. And it's such an amazing opportunity for all of us to gather this morning to celebrate the International Literacy Day launch. I'm not too sure if I can use the microphone or can I? Okay, all right. I wasn't too sure because you know how.
Colleagues, I'm just wondering if this is the same meeting because that is on the link.
Is it okay if I lower the?
It actually started at 10 o'clock.
Okay, no, I cannot lower it. So I tried the speaker.
Of the International Literacy Day.
Should I tell her that it is the right meeting?
Yes.
It is the right meeting, colleagues. Greetings. I hope you can hear us. Can you give us a thumbs up if you can hear us? Just so you do not run away from this meeting. It's actually the right meeting. Awesome. I see thumbs up this side. Can I get a thumbs up even here? Thank you so much. Can I keep the microphone on or should I mute it? Keep it on. On the laptop. Mute it. Okay. Just want to make sure that I do things right. Okay, let's try this again. Greetings, Sanbonani, Dumelang, Tobela. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, let's try that again. Yes, it worked. Okay, great. Online, could you give us a thumbs up? Can you still hear us? No thumbs up online. Okay, thumbs up online. We're good to go. Let's try that again. Vingo, everybody. Once again, I greet you all, and it's such an exciting time to be here this morning. And the International Literacy Day launch comes at the backdrop of the National Read a Book Day. That was quite exciting on the 6th of September. And some of us read virtual books, some of us read books on our devices, and some of us read paper books, and that was really exciting. This day also comes at the backdrop of the International Literacy Day, celebrated on the 8th of September. But before we get there, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to acknowledge all the VIPs and the VVVVVIPs gathered in this place. It's wonderful to see familiar faces from our previous celebrations of Literacy Day, International Mother Tongue Day, and so on. I was warned not to get into details of the names and the offices of the VIPs and the VVIPs. I'll leave that to my former school director, Professor Ngwepe, because I'll mess it up. But I just want to acknowledge everyone who's here and just tell you how excited I am that we are having this day. Do forgive me, ladies and gentlemen. We've just come from a celebration of Untate Eskem Pahlele, and we were speaking Ispedi. When I say we were, I mean other people were speaking proper Sipedi, and I was trying my broken Sipedi. And so if I stop sometimes and try to think and rephrase, I'll be reminding myself that I have to speak isiZulu or Sipedi so that I do not butcher it. Ladies and gentlemen, since 1967, the annual celebrations of the International Literacy Day have taken place on the 8th of September each year around the world to remind policymakers, practitioners, and the public of the critical importance of literacy. Growing up, my English teachers, one of them who was my grandmother, used to say to us, readers are leaders. And they drilled that into us to say readers are leaders. So even if you did not want to read anything, you just have to remind yourself that I have to be a leader, so I have to be a reader. And if it didn't read, then there's no leadership. At Sunday school, at church, or even at school. So today we celebrate and we honor those teachers who taught us how to read. They taught me that my name starts with the letter T. It's Tulile. That is my name, ladies and gentlemen. We honor those teachers from grade 1. I did substandard A, so that's how old I am. From grade R, grade 1, and all the other teachers who taught us and encouraged us to read. But we also like to honor the librarians, the custodians of these books. Yay! I thought we would go. We are in the library after all. We appreciate those librarians who taught us the Dewey system, but they just taught us where to find books, where to find books with pictures. Some of us started with pictures, and where to find the right books. And together with our teachers, they taught us, I love it, mama, ima, mama, me, mama, me, o mama, mema, o mame. It was beautiful. We still remember it today because they did that brilliant job. You can say what you want about them, that they used repetition, they used this and that, but it worked. And today we're here to celebrate literacy, the international. Let me read it to make sure that I do it right. And let us also celebrate optometrists for assisting us with glasses. Because for some of us, the skill of reading would not be manifested without these glasses. So we celebrate the International Literacy Day launch. Ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome. We hope we will have an exciting program. It has started with Uboya Benyati Siabonga for that beautiful music. And without further ado, you know, when you were playing, and we talked about it when we started, that we were talking about umama, ugogo wesizwe, umntwana, umagogo kaDinuzulu, who also played umakweyana. Thank you for that new word. So the instrument she played at the beginning is umakweyane. Now we all know there's a word called umakweyane. Thank you very much for taking us back and for blessing our spirits. We appreciate you. Without further ado, I'd like to invite the Executive Director of the Library and Information Services, Professor Mpho Ngwebe, who will be welcoming us, because I see now we're still sitting like we have not been welcomed. So let's invite him to the fore so that he will welcome us, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you very much. Over to you, Prof.
Thank you, Madam Program Director, Dr. Shandu Pedla. Good morning, colleagues and cousins, ladies and gentlemen. I have been asked, or rather instructed by my boss to deliver this welcoming address. Therefore, I would like to make a disclaimer. If at the end of this welcome address, you don't feel welcomed, you should not shoot the messenger. However, if you feel welcomed at the end of the address, please praise the messenger. And I'm not going to add or subtract from the message that I was given. Otherwise, my problems will be bigger than that of Kaizer Chiefs. In observing protocols, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to acknowledge in absentia both the Chancellor of the University of South Africa, His Excellency President Thabo Mbeki, and the Vice Chancellor and Principal, Professor Puleng Nkabula. And I'll be making a mistake, of course, if I forget the one who sent me, who is my immediate boss, Professor Tenjiwe Meiwa. Otherwise, my IPM score would be very, very low, and I won't get any bonus. Ladies and gentlemen, I am told that if you are feeling numb, you must come to the library. This is because libraries are good for circulation. I'm not sure if this is the circulation of books or blood due to numbness. And you may take your beverage into the library, but please don't pour milk on the cereal. I'm referring to the magazines and newspapers. Otherwise, you'll be like the author in jail who was put in the writer's block and he couldn't go past his first sentence. And if you read the book about electricity, you will find that it is quite shocking, more especially about load shedding. Kamo ke bogoba Puku, are paki di buka. When I came to join the library, somebody said to me, as a professor, now you are going to just go and pack books. Dames and here, bomele bontati, my duty is to welcome those who are attending both physically and virtually on the virtual space of UNISA, as well as setting the tone for our program. So I am therefore both humbled and elevated by this honor and privilege to welcome you to this International Literacy Day celebration. I don't know where to start. Perhaps I should start at the beginning with an African adage that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. This proverb is loaded, and it says a lot. Perhaps put differently by a wise king, two are better than one. This is not only because two people are more productive as a team, but also because someone is there to help you during trouble. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. In our case, we are referring to institutions that are in partnership. Over the years, several role players have been working in the reading space, driving programs and projects that are meant to turn South Africa into a reading nation, especially with regard to leisure reading. Most people in South Africa, I'm told, they regard reading as an activity connected to school or formal education. Hence, many writers in indigenous languages, they write only for the Department of Basic Education audience. And this curtail their creativity because there is a criteria for writing for that kind of audience. Then reading is viewed as an activity that has to be enjoyed during a short period at school and then abandoned when people complete their required stages of schools. UNISA and the partners, Puku Children's Literature Foundation, ILIFA, the National Library of South Africa, and other partners, EB, Owalagotoya, I can read them, there are many. We have been working on a collaborative catalog project to produce catalog of children's literature for early childhood and primary school in all languages. Our partnerships have been formalized in a marriage certificate through Memorandum of Understanding. And the main purpose is to collaborate on programs and initiatives that advance and preserve African languages. More specifically, to implement projects to increase the quantity and quality of children's literature in South African languages, including endangered languages as well as Braille. And to also leverage on common interests and consolidate work that has already been done by all these partners. And to promote the intellectualization of African languages, especially with reference to early childhood education and reading, and advancement and preservation of African languages with a focus on children's literature. Ladies and gentlemen, we do amongst us have special guests. I'm not going to mention their name, otherwise I will spoil the fun. And we do have dignitaries. I'm not going to mention their name. I'll be spoiling the fun. So the MOU is driven by many factors. We all know that the United Nations has proclaimed the period 2022 to 2032 as an international decade of indigenous languages, with the hope of building global community for preservation, revitalization, and support of indigenous languages worldwide. This is also the case in South Africa, even more so for languages which are not official. And if I may say, our partner, Puku Children's Literature Foundation, was recognized through winning UNESCO King Sejong Literary Prize in 2022 for its program. Let us give them, what do you call it, a program director? Yes. The King Sejong Award, it is named after the fourth, if not the third, king of Joseon, which is now Korea. His name was Yi-do, and then his name for the king was King Sejong. He was the one who compressed the Chinese alphabet into 26 or 27 alphabets for the Koreans in the late 14th century and the beginning of the 15th century. And for that, he made reading accessible to even the third class, because during that time they had caste classes. There were the nobles and the aristocrats and the peasants. So he made even reading accessible to the peasants. So that is what we're also trying to do today. So we need to aim high. For the greatest danger for most of us is that it's not that we are aiming, our aim is too high and we miss it, but that it is too low and we reach it. And this is the second best time for us to plant a tree. Now, for the original best time was in 1994. That was the original best time. But this is the second best time today. So we all know the aspiration of the National Development Plan, the 2030, that every community must have a library filled with a wealth of knowledge and a librarian who's collecting, organizing, and making information accessible. Unfortunately, it is a mirage. Hence, the PLEAS report paints a gloomy picture of grade 4 learners who cannot read for meaning. Part of the problem is that children's books in indigenous languages, especially for the early childhood development and foundation phase, are not easily accessible. There is no central available database for South African children's book, not only from publishers, but also non-commercial content produced by non-profit organizations. And the absence of such make the children's literature not accessible. And people will always say that we don't have books in indigenous languages. But the books are there, but they are not accessible. And we don't know where they are. If you're searching for such books, I always say that it's tantamount, sorry to use this, it's tantamount to the blind man in darkness searching for a black cat. It is hard to find such books. And today we know that it is we know that 8th of September is the International Literacy Day, as the program director has said, and the month of September is the International Literacy Month. And in the library, as I welcome you, we don't have dogs. Normally when we welcome people in African tradition, we say the dogs, all the dogs are in leash. So in the library, we don't have dogs. But you know that dogs and storytellers have one thing in common. Yes, they both have tails. And you may ask what we are doing here today. It is a long story, but to cut the long story short, today we have chosen this day as part of International Literacy Month Day to celebrate the launching of the online platform, so that it is a move towards making the books, children's literature books, accessible. So we have chosen this so that people can access this. And in Northern Lesotho they say, Shipa lampia liduba lesalemets. La omelela liatlava. I'm not going to translate it. It will be lost in translation. But you can translate to your neighbor. But in short, they say, blend it while it is still wet. Because if it becomes dry, the stick, and you try to blend it, it is going to break. So when it is still wet, it's the children. So if we teach them to read and write in indigenous languages when they are still young, they are going to read forever, and then we'll build that. We mustn't wait until they are here at the university. It's going to break. That's why we are struggling at the university. Perhaps, ladies and gentlemen, if every man of us can play an important role in stimulating the culture of reading. For John von Gutten reckons that if everyone could sweep the front of their yards, the whole neighborhood will be clean. We don't need the municipality to come and clean the neighborhood. We just clean the front of our yards and the front of the yards, and then the whole neighborhood will be clean. So we need to make this reading material accessible. And as I am introducing the conclusion of my welcome address, I'm not concluding, I'm introducing it. Where I come from, they say, moeng a duta letsogo ga a je sa molemi. Ke Sepedi. And when they say that, we respond by saying that moeng ga a bone kgwedi. The Northern Sotho is very difficult. Even the people who are speaking it, they struggle with the language. It is rich in idioms. Ladies and gentlemen, even though in South Africa we are in the periphery of the global hub, but we are lucky in South Africa because we are in the hub of the periphery. Because there is a hub in every periphery, there's a periphery in every periphery, and so we are in the hub of the periphery because we are lucky to have the materials. Unlike other African nations, they are struggling. If we think we are struggling, they are struggling more. So a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step, and then with our partnership, we have begun that step towards making children's literature accessible. We have already started in 2021-2022 by launching a catalog in ECIT-COSA. A person will ask why ECIT-COSA. Others will explain later. And then last year, the National Arts Council helped us with some funding through the Puku Children's Literature Foundation. And then we were able to start with the workshop, the Setswana workshop. And this year, the reviewers had selected best 100 books in Setswana. And we also this year started with the Sesotho. We chose Sesotho because the Basotho nations were celebrating 200 years of the Basotho nation. I don't know. You must be Mosotho. So this is a step towards making the literature accessible. And one other thing is that at UNISA, we have starting towards decolonizing even our collection here. And we have started with the exhibition. Downstairs, when this everything is over, downstairs at Van Skyke Exhibition Center in the reception there, we are exhibiting in all the languages, official languages of South Africa. The books that we have in the library. There are a few collections downstairs. You will see them later when we are done. So this journey of 1,000 miles is not a Mandeland journey. Mandeland journey is a journey where no one ever arrives at their destination. They call it a Mandeland in the voice of Wole Sonjika. So with these words, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to present a long welcome note. I'm saying with these words, we are all welcome to the library and this partnership. And I hope that with this partnership, we will forever hold our peace till death do us part. And be able to deliver the comprehensive catalog that every book in South Africa in future, not only children's literature, every book in indigenous languages can be accessible, and then people will be able to know where to get that book. I thank you, Madam Program Director.
Thank you very much, Prof. Siyabonga. We appreciate those words. Yes, go ahead. All right, I can safely say you can turn to your neighbor and say, books are thieves. Oh, I think so. Both of them. Maybe say it in your language, maybe they will understand you. NgesiZulu sothi izincwadi zingamasela. What do you say in Sixhosa, Sisuthu, Sipedi? Kimashot. Yeah, Mashot. Books are thieves. Books stole my ignorance. After reading, I was no longer ignorant. And while they connect, Prof. Mwepe, we thank you and your team. But I have to tell you about what happened to me in 2017, one of the UNISA libraries. I was studying very hard. I was reading and I was writing at the same time. I was the pure epitome of literacy. My head was focused on what I was reading, and by the time I lifted up my head, the library was dark. Your people had locked me in. There was not a soul, not a sight, no person at the library. I got up, went to the glass doors, and I knocked. There was no one in sight until one lone man in blue approached. Remember, this was after 8 p.m. He approached, I knocked, he stood and looked just to make sure what it was he was saying. And when I saw him, I was even more frantic as I waved and I knocked. He turned around slowly and ran away fast. I had to call someone to come from home to tell security guards that someone was locked up at the library. So thank you very much to you and your team. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move to an item on collaborations. I invite someone who will talk to us on the UNISA Puku Ilifa collaboration. It is my absolute honor and my absolute pride and excitement to introduce to you, calm down, Tuli, stop being a groupie. You are a program director. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduced Ubaba Umabutso Sitole, the chairperson of the Indigenous Languages Initiatives for Advancement, ILIFA. Over to you, Bob. Kuthiwa ayishaye people ayishaye ayishaye
ngibonge owenze contact mina ngiyakhuluma mina ngiphatha insimbi mina ngifaka i-content when you let you communicate.
There's the presentation for you. Is it this one?
Thank you.
That presentation.
You know why I delayed you here? You know why?
No.
I come from the generation that was never allowed to be next to a white lady. So it's a privilege. It's a privilege.
That's fine.
Thank you, my darling.
Okay, good.
Ngibonge ku sihlalo mphathi wohlelo udadewethu lapha wakwaNdlovu sibonge Gatsheni. Thank you very much. Prof has just told you, Prof Mwepe has just told you that there are partners that work together on this, ILIFA, UNISA and Puku. And I'm going to be presenting to us what they do. And because of their wisdom, they decided, the trio, to take into account my presentation. They decided to make it very brief. It's a very lengthy one, but they did two things: in the interest of time and in the interest of space. The kind of kilograms that I carry do not allow me to be in one place for a long time, because it then constitutes space abuse. So we're going to be trying to be as fast as possible. But the program director was saying to us, we must look at our neighbors and say, books are a thief. I couldn't, let me admit, program director, I couldn't deliver that statement to anyone because I'm seated alone. I don't have a neighbor. But once more, thank you very much for this time. A very important time, and I would love us to start by telling the story of the three. And please, where is the gentleman going? Where is the person driving it for me? Can somebody be driving it? Can somebody be driving it so that I just deliver? No, that's it. Summary of UNISA ILIFA Puku memorandum. And thank you very much. My brother is here to be driving that. I'll be talking to it. And this was signed in May 2022.
If you want to sit down, I'll do it.
No, it's fine.
It's fine.
I love this. There are people fighting for a good cause. Give them a good round of applause. Let's go, my brother. Thank you very much. The contents of this presentation: one is purpose, scope, undertakings, UNISA, Puku, and ILIFA. And I want us to start off by the purpose of this trio coming together. This MOU aims to implement projects to increase the quantity and improve the quality of literature in all South African languages, especially children's literature, including endangered languages and Braille, leverage on common interest and consolidate work that has already been done, promote the intellectualization of African languages, especially with reference to early childhood education and reading, advance and promote South African indigenous languages, both nationally and regionally, promote reading and writing in indigenous languages, especially for children and teenagers, and of course move on to advocate for children's literature to be a serious area of academic inquiry. Present annual workshops that will train lecturers and students to write and review books in indigenous languages. Host joint campaigns to promote and celebrate the use of indigenous languages, so that the indigenous languages don't become a language that is only used when there's a traditional wedding ceremony or any other ceremony at home. It must be moved from home to the commercial world. What are the undertakings of the three? The three players here: UNISA, where we are now, UNISA developing their duties to develop an Afrocentric curriculum. UNISA will lead the collaboration in its work of mainstreaming African thought and languages, especially in the area of children's literature. And why children's literature? Prof. Mwepe has just told you that earlier on last year, led by Puku, we produced a catalog. It's clear, easy thinking. We've got to hit it where it matters most to our children. And once it's there, soaked there, and consolidated there, And as he rightfully put it, I'm not going to say it in Northern Sesotho, I'm going to say it in isiZulu, legotjwa lisemanzi. They are synonymous with Prof. Mwepe. You can check with him. Let's move on. Well, the work by UNISA doesn't end there. UNISA, remember, has got a national presence. And we're hoping that as we move to the different provinces and calling up, amongst other things that we're going to be doing as advocating, you see what LIFA does, we will need to be going to the different provinces. And so we will not be struggling, because that's where UNISA will be helping us with their national presence, so that one day we're in the Free State, we don't struggle. They tell us where the venue would be when we have our workshops, when we have our advocacy programs taking place there, like the one we're having. I'm going to invite you when I finish to the one we're having in Gauteng, the first Saturday of October. Those kind of events that are being done in collaboration, Puku, national libraries, UNISA, ILIFA. We will not struggle with venues, because that's what UNISA does. But also, because we want to contribute to the development of these indigenous languages, we are relying on the research department, the languages, indigenous languages, African languages department, to help us in that type of gathering the information, making sure that our languages grow. Is it not shameful or sad that I'm wearing a jersey, but I do not know the Zulu word for a jersey? A jersey is ubizomfagela from English jersey. Now that tells you how much development that has got to go into our languages. We play every day, we talk about television, but I do not have a Setswana word for television. I do not have the Venda word for television in terms of production of information that UNISA is going to be helping us with as we develop our own language. And we must compliment the African speakers who saw the need in 1948 when they came in to be in charge, to do one thing and one thing only: invest in the development of their language. And we would want to copy from that and take it from here, see a pambi. And so that when we eventually go into the boardroom, and that day, Professor Mwepe is the chairperson of that boardroom in Old Mutual, Rand Merchant Bank, wherever. When we finish with that meeting, Professor Mwepe will be saying, Arieng Heba Eshu, Makakushi, Arije. In the board, after the board meeting, in Pretoria, in Polokwane, in Durban, wherever. Ashu. I give him a chair. It's a not so to speaking chair. And so we follow the lead. And that's how serious we are with this thing. We go to Puku. Puku, they're the reason we're here. And we must be really appreciative of the sterling leadership by Sis Elena Sisulu here. And I would urge us to give that group And Puku will be implementing writing and reviewing workshops in indigenous South African languages during the project period. Produce catalogs. I've already told you of the Tswana one, and we're talking Xhosa one now. Produce catalogs of children's books in South Africa's indigenous languages. Provide for students, internships. That's so scarce, I don't know why. But Puku is working on such. And also, possibly, and again, those of you who are related to financial directors and so on, come closer so that we get more catalogs, being done in the next year, the other year. We have a good diary that is led by Puku of producing these catalogs. So please, if you're not sure of your CSI program and where do you plant, we're available, talk to us. And of course, Puku will avail its website for partial or whole use of some tangible deliverables pertaining to the development, promotion, and digitalization of multilingual children's literature. Multilingual children's literature, I should add. And Puku, please be aware that when you begin to talk about the culture, the curriculum for those children, so that we begin to change the mindset that these games that the children play are only in English. These games can also be in indigenous languages. And we in ILIFA have got the educators who can write those kinds of curriculums to feed into the children's literature, so that it's an English game. It can also be Wana wa bapala, o bapala, tona di fe di ne, bakutele kaha. It's possible. So please, those of you who are related to the big boys, COOs, CFOs, talk to us. And of course, we assist, Puku will assist the academic component with administration support where possible. Prof. Mwepe, Spiro Masuku, and others that are working closely with us will remember this. One of the cries that Sis Elena Sisulu has got, a very genuine cry, is that most of us are working in this languages landscape. We work there without any payment. And the cry that Sis Elena has always had, let people work and be paid from what they love, from what they have passion with. So on the one hand, you're passionate to develop the language, but on the other, you're struggling. How then do I survive with my family? It doesn't make sense, does it? We have a nation-building passion, but the nation-building passion cannot sustain the person's family. And so those are the kind of imbalances and challenges that are here. But Puku, UNISA, and finally ILIFA are clubbed together to make sure. ILIFA is Indigenous Languages Initiative for Advancement. We want to advance. I told you about the Jersey story. And we want to make sure ILIFA develops proposals to various corporate entities and learn and talk to them. And nesiZulu sihle intombi iyashare. So sifuna ukubashela basondele sizokwazi ukuthuthukisa olwebele. And ungabe isiZulu kuphela nesixwana nesipedi nesibele, so that when I go to and arrive there and say, and those guys know how to respond with all the facilities, the abilities of Soweto, of Pretoria, of Durban, and so on. So, ILIFA will develop proposals to that will enhance the indigenous languages. And two, ILIFA is not static. ILIFA advocacy goes exactly to do that. We spearhead advocacy and policy development to safeguard cultural integrity, and especially the advancement of linguistic integrity. When we talk about culture, we are serious. Remember, language is the carrier of culture. There is no way I can talk to a Tswana boy in Mabatu and he does something funny and I come to him, I say to him, Ngwanake, 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 Karatubu. And the child turns and comes back because he has messed up. You then say to this boy in Setswana, Ngwanaka, Reza, already it's a pap, or ka Setswana, Monwana, Lefoko, Halebo, Hubua Monwana Hell. You have reprimanded that child seriously. In isiZulu, if that child messes up, you say to that child, Mtanam, Mtanam, hamba, ababuyisi baphambili. You have actually mowed that kind. If that child is bright, he'll take a U-turn and come back. And if we are in Guyana, and you see this boy is lazing around, doesn't want to work, he dodges, he gets transport for taxi to go and look for work, and now and then he's got stories. And as a father, you call that child in Sitonga. Ure ngateko, ngateko. Be careful, my son. Ah, Papa this, Papa that. Mintiro, ya bula bula. You've done it all. So that's what we're talking about there. That advocacy does that. Because if you kill the language, you've killed the African wisdom simultaneously. And of course, as I usually say, you're guilty. You're guilty of, of linguicide. You've killed your own language. And you can go and research that and see whether we make that word official or not. But I've said it, it's a reality. You would have committed linguicide. And then we go further, celebrate, as Ilifa were trying to drive with the trio, that we celebrate days like this. International Literacy Day. We celebrate International Mother Tongue Day on the 21st Kuntlolanja. And Kibatota Mplela Yonaga Sesotho, 21 Kuntlolanja. 21 February, Kimang Kakole. Bakai Botswana. 21 Kakole. And then 25 May, International Literacy Day like today. And 8 September, Mhlazis Pohlongo, Gumandulu. And Heritage Day, 24th September. And we're looking forward. Again, I'm calling for funders, supporters who are going to support us. Heritage, language is heritage. That's what we're celebrating on the 24th. But as we speak, we've not had an opportunity to celebrate it because coffers. We want to celebrate it as this trio nationally. So it must happen in the Eastern Cape, in the Western Cape, all over, celebrating language. And why language? Maybe next year we will do that. And why language? Because when the negotiators were at Codesa and talking about the new order, democratic order, there were 2 L's that were left out. 2 L's. And that's why we're in this room today. 2 L's that were left out. The 1 L was the land, and the 2nd L was languages. So the whole issue of development of languages was a dream deferred. That's why we're here, and that's why this trio came together. Thank you.
Siyabonga. Thank you very much. Siyabonga kakhulu, Jobeka Machan. We appreciate you. Siyabonga for that information on Umbimbi. the collaboration. Now it is, okay, let's assist you. Let's allow you. Okay. Are we good? Almost. It's a very dangerous word for me because, you know, I'm related to the Ndaba people. So when you say almost, I almost want to start telling a story in honor of the Ndaba people. All right, so you're done. We're good? Yes, we have our sign language interpreter. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored to introduce the next speaker, who will be talking to us about the journey, the Puku journey, and acknowledgements. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Umama Eleanor Sisulu, the Executive Director of Puku Children's Literature Foundation. A round of applause, please.
Thank you very much, Ngiyabonga. I must say, some time ago when we were planning a program, I said I never want to speak after Brakid or Jobe or Babusitole, and I didn't follow that rule today, and I regret it because it's always an anticlimax, anyone who speaks after him. Thanks, Ngiyabonga and Jobe. Thank you very much. I think a lot was said by Prof. Mwepe, Babusitole about Puku and our goals, and so I don't want to repeat those things, except to say, you know, Puku was founded or registered as an organization in 2010, and it's been a long journey, and we've had highlights, and we've had many awards, and I'm not going to be modest. Apart from the UNESCO award, we've had other awards as Puku. And so we know, and also through our collaboration and the partners we have, we know that the work we're doing is important and meaningful. I want to acknowledge our Puku team here. If they could just stand up, please, so that people know you. I know Rosie wants to hide there, but please, Rosie, Nomvuyo, Chelsea, Gift, please just stand up. Melvin, just the Puku team, I just want to acknowledge them. I don't know if Sia is here. So that's our team. And Zanele, how can I forget Zanele? So these are the people who have been part of our journey for a long time. And, you know, people, I have to acknowledge them because they get paid very little. And they don't get paid for the amount they should for the work they do. And I think that's really important that we acknowledge the passion and commitment of our team. We have Chelsea and Gift there as our interns. Chelsea is an intern from Publishers Association of South Africa, for which we are very grateful. So we've got the secretary of PASA here wearing a number of hats, Andrew Joseph. And so you can accept that thank you on our behalf. So we do have a truly intergenerational team, small as it is. And so we wouldn't be here without them putting in the extra time, getting phone calls over weekends, Sunday mornings, anytime. They are always on call. So we thank you for that. I also want to thank our partners, UNISA. You know, UNISA is a huge elephant. And if you're at the trunk, you're very far from the tail. And we've spent time over the years working. Well, I'll acknowledge ILIFA first, and I'll end with UNISA. So ILIFA, as you know, you've heard Babusitole speaking and demonstrating he's a lay minister, so he has those skills of a preacher, and he's an actor as well. So we've seen those skills demonstrated. We work with ILIFA as a community organization with amazing community outreach, and also that they are able to knock on doors of politicians and sit them down and tell them what to do. Oh yes, Sipiwe Masuku and Professor Madise, who's also on on the UNISA staff. So I think, and they also work on a completely voluntary basis with a lot of passion and commitment. And between us, we really want to reach these goals, certainly to have all the books, the children's books in all our languages, easily discoverable and accessible. And this is a major task, and I'm not going to go into the detail of that. Melvin will talk about the digital infrastructure we're trying to build to support that project. And it's really difficult. Children's literature is not the place you want to be if you want to be a wealthy person. You know, that unfortunately is the reality. But if it's a place to be if you want to meet great people and friends for life. And I'm really happy that some of them are here today. There's Dushanka, my publisher there, who is also EB South Africa, with whom we've walked a very long road. And there's Homolema, I forgot to mention, as Puku. She's part of our Puku network. And Nkateko, who has recently joined us. And so we're really happy. And members of the catalog committees who will be introduced later. I'm also really happy to have Professor Loreto Jacobs from the UNISA Information Science Department and the other UNISA departments. I don't know if Professor Rosemary Moketsi is here. Yes, I see her there. Please stand up, Prof. Please, we have to acknowledge you. The first African woman dean in UNISA, who is, it's really important that we acknowledge our history and the people who struggled. And her field especially, forensic linguistics, is a very, very specialized and important field that she's been so essential to creation and production of knowledge in this institution. And it's such a pleasure to have her here and to have her listening to the work that we are doing. And I know she'll have words of wisdom and encouragement and criticism. She must be feel free and advice. So it's really fantastic to have her here. And also from our Sesotho catalog, Dr. Mzamane, as well, who's walked the journey with us as Puku. We really appreciate your presence here as well. And I'm not going to go through everybody else, but all of you really are very much appreciated. In 2021, Puku won the UNESCO King Sejong Prize for Literacy. And one of the reasons we won it was that we did webinars in all our languages. And it was really, because it was COVID, as you remember, and so people couldn't meet, so people were forced onto virtual platforms. And it was really an eye-opener that we had these professors and people who did a lot of work in very specific areas, but were not having the discourse in their languages. And so if it was Sesotho, it had to be in Sesotho. If it was isiZulu, it had to be in isiZulu. And it was interesting because there were people who complained, but aren't you going to have interpreters? Why is this only in Xhosa? Where are the interpreters? And we said, but when you do these things in English, you don't have interpreters. And so it was a very informative process. And unfortunately, due to funding constraints, we couldn't continue. And I think it's really unfortunate that in a country where we have a reading crisis such as ours, we don't even have the catalogs in all our languages. And I'm really happy we've got our national librarian here, who looks as if he's just come from Bermuda. He's brought some bit of sunshine look into the place. Mr. Kepi Madumo, who I must say we've tried for many years. We knocked on the doors of the National Library. When I was at Center for the Book, we worked with the National Library, and it was always difficult. And I think, without saying too much about the past, when you came to the National Library, you really made it accessible and really made us be able to come, knock on your door, and actually say, this is what we're doing in our space. have been open to criticism, have been open to suggestions, and really a true collaboration. So though we talk of the trio, UNISA, Puku, ILIFA, National Library's also been there as a major partner in the catalogue project. So we appreciate your presence here. And I will end with talking about, how we landed in UNISA. I know Melvin has been working with as a publisher and a bookseller, and he had his own contact with UNISA. And when he came on the board of Puku, we started a process of really engaging with UNISA and trying to put up get a partnership going. But my first contact with UNISA was through Professor Thomas van der Walt, who is here and who I really want to acknowledge. He's a person who started the children's literature, was it called a section or a project in the information science? Research unit. Children's literature, yes, children's literature research unit within UNISA. And he did amazing work. And I remember a meeting that he organized, a conference in, I think it's what is now Bela Bela, where he brought together people from all over Africa. We met people involved in children's literature, especially in Ethiopia, the late Michael Ambachu. And, I later went to Ethiopia and met some of the people they involved through Thomas. And he was also very active in the South African Children's Book Forum, if I remember. Now, our history is long. It just shows our age. So Thomas was a big influence, and we've often discussed it with Prof. Mwepe, where we felt that his contribution was never really properly acknowledged. And, we always, I think, have to, we talk about decolonization, and the academics get into very esoteric discussions with words that even I, as an English graduate, have to look into my dictionary. But for me, decolonization is very simple. It's knowing about yourself and your immediate, it's an education which moves from the particular to the universal. Not as we did in a colonial education, learn about the whole world and nothing about ourselves. And part of this process is a continuous struggle against erasure of our history. And in the past, we experienced erasure because colonization was a deliberate part of the colonial hegemony, was to wipe away your own history. So you are not strong in yourself. But since 1994, we're still talking about this issue of languages, and it's almost like a voluntary erasure, where we don't invest into our own resources, we don't invest into acknowledging what people have done before. And we kind of reinventing the wheel every time. So it's a really important for us as Puku. We see it as really important to acknowledge our history and build on those foundations which were started by others. And it's in that context really that we felt that it's important today to particularly acknowledge Thomas van der Walt for his contribution. And I'm asking the Professor Mwepe to come forward so that we can make just a small little gesture of acknowledgement. Thomas retired many years ago, and so this is long overdue. And I think he's one of the people in the children's literature field in South Africa. There are others like Jay Hill, who is sadly late, who really haven't been properly acknowledged. And for us as Puku, we acknowledge him, and we hope that the digital resources that he created here at this institution will be retrieved and made available for us to continue, because a lot of good work was done. And the idea for the catalog project came from a project of a South African children's book catalog. So I think we have this small token of appreciation. So, Prof, I give over to you.
I didn't prepare for this. Let me start from the beginning again. I have known Professor van der Walt since the late 90s. I was very young, and I was his only student for honors. And I was his first student for masters. So I'm declaring the interest now. And like Eleanor is saying, Professor van der Walt has played an important role in the development of children's literature. And during his time in the department, he also ran the conferences wherein the issues were discussed. He also developed, we had a storytelling project all over South Africa. And at the end, when I was the COD of the department, we also produced stories from the children because of the project that he ran. He ran it for over a long period, and I'm happy to say that that project is still going on. It didn't die. And over the years, the project also, it was not just a community engagement project. It produced the research, and the modules were, it also influenced the modules, and then even the one that we are thinking of introducing in the near future. Professor Jacobs is here. She took after me. She's listening. They are going to develop some similar module. Those are the fruits that the seed was planted by Professor van der Walt many years ago. And having said that, I feel that I'm not worthy to present this, although we can conceptualize together. I'm not worthy, so I'm going to call Professor Moeketsi, because he was there during those times to present this to Professor van der Walt.
So these are the surprises.
Yes. And Professor van der Walt, you can just say a few words if you have to, and then over to you. Thank you.
Sorry to hijack you, Prof.
I've never been hijacked before, so I enjoy this. Thank you very much. Professor Thomas, it's colleagues, I don't want to say good afternoon and so on. It's always such a pleasure when, as an academic, you start something in your department, whatever it is, however small it is, and you come knocking at the door of your dean to ask for support financially or otherwise, and you don't necessarily get everything that you want, and you go back and do the work anyway. I'm happy your colleagues recognize your commitment to the cause, and this is what I'm requested to present to you with pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thomas, yes? Okay, so there's a certificate from the library, and then there's also something from the Department of Information Science as well.
Thank you, Professor Ngwepe and Professor Moeketsi would know that I was never one to say much. That's why I worked at UNISA for 40 years. In any case, I just want to say thank you very much, Professor Ngwepe. Eleanor, as you say, we know each other long ago. And it was very special for me that Professor Moeketsi presented this to me. She was really one of the deans that you could always go to. As she said, I always knew I'm not going to get everything, but she was always willing to help. So thank you very much to her.
Thank you. I feel something complete. This has been bothering me for a long time. Thank you so much. Truly, I think that's where I end.
Thank you so much, Siyabonga kakhulu. Just seeing Professor Van der Walt, seeing Prof. Mwekezi, it just takes me back. Thank you very, very much. It's such an honor. We are in the presence of VIPs. This is a rare moment. Yebo, Baba.
Sorry, I forgot to invite all the people that are in this room. Mother Tongue African Summit, 5th October, Orlando Communal Hall. Please, all are welcome. And don't come alone, obviously, because this is a fundraiser for ILIFA to pay for the advocacy work. So 250 per person. And imagine if your society, your friends, your church members, your relatives come with you, at least it's a table. We encourage you. Please come through. Remember that NGOs that are making sure that this work is happening are not funded from anywhere. Thank you very much. If you want to talk to us, we are here. I will wait for your bookings and I will send the information. Ngiyabonga kakhulu sihlalo.
Jobe, siyabonga kakhulu. We just appreciate that. So, omasingcwabisane, ma society loading, yeah. Kamuka, everyone. Siyabonga kakhulu. We are a bit behind time, but it's okay. We'll catch up. Let me invite Dr. Ntsana Mokwane, who's a lecturer at the Department of African Languages. You did hear her memezela ngathi khulunywa ngeSotho, so niyambona nje represent, and she'll be talking to us. Allah. She's talking to us about the catalog project of isiSotho recommended books. Over to you.
I wanted to honor you with wearing my blanket, but due to age, the horse flashes are giving me something else, so I'll just have it over here. Greetings to all, and protocol is observed. At this point, I'm very conflicted because now I so much would like to express myself in Sesotho, but then other people would not be able to follow. So I will say it in the decolonizer's language. Unfortunately, thank you, Program Director. Mine is, Prof. Mwepe said, it's to cut a long story short. Now I want to start off as a storytelling session in Sesotho. Basotho batla arabela, bari ineri. Hajaluka kaufel, bari ineri. Bari khale selimong sa khale kwana. Kamora dikgodimo le sankatana kamora COVID e rona inengile kgodimo ya rona. Puku inengi ipapantse ika tlo. You saw the Puku emblem. It's a little elephant. A long time ago, Puku thought of something, and they thought of the African child. Be it a Mosotho child, Motkosa child, Motsonga child, and so forth. And they thought, how are these children going to grow up to be adults who know their language, their identity, and their culture? And Puku thought, with his collaborators, perhaps we can come up with catalogs for children's literature in their respective literatures. And they thought, we can do this for the 9 South African languages. They started off with isiXhosa, which was reported here that it was launched last year. And then Sesotho and Setswana came along. Today,
we are going to give you an account of the Sesotho one. Setswana one is still in progress, just at the verge of being wrapped up. The Sesotho reviewers, that committee was made up of 6 people. Some of them are joining us online, some of them are here among us. Please rise as I call your name. Ntate Mohapi, Professor Ntwani Taum Zamani, Mofuma Hatsana Khomolemo Moagi, is over here. And those who have joined us online and at Elibeko Siliso and Mehilda Mohali. Puku is very organized. Often when you are given a task, you work first and you get paid after. But Puku is different. You get paid before, then you do the job. You can imagine the pressure because now the compensation was already eaten. The committee had to review everything about the books. Each member had about 30 books that they had to review. Now 3 times 6 is 180. And we had to reduce this and only hopefully reduce it to 100. That 100, if it is 100, you will be told at a later stage. I'm just giving the highlight of the process. As the reviewers, we had to look at the translators. Did they do a good job? The illustrators, did they do a good job? The author, did the author do a good job as a package of the books that we had to review? The topics that were covered in the books that we reviewed ranged between Boto, caring for animals and people, nature in its entirety, vegetables. The children were reminded that you can grow your own vegetables and you need to eat your own vegetables so that you can grow big and strong. The excess, you can even take it to the market. You can now imagine the wealth of knowledge that the children gained. Other topics included recreation, arts, culture, technology, their own talents, disabilities, creativity, rural versus urban surroundings, and the taxi passengers. Some of our children have never driven in a taxi. One child or some children will have the opportunity to read a book about what goes on, the shenanigans that goes on in a taxi. In 2023, a report was made that reported on the trends to watch in 2023 in children's literature. These topics covered diversity and inclusion, interactive storytelling, mental health and well-being, sustainable living, non-fiction, STEM education, social justice, graphic novels, and own voices. Among these that I have read, those that we picked up as representative in the books that were produced for Sesotho are diversity and inclusion, sustainable living, non-fiction, STEM education, social justice, and own voices. Graphic novels, mental health and wellness, and interactive storytelling was not covered. Authors who are in here write in Sesotho in our indigenous languages, including the 3 that I have just mentioned. As we progressed in reviewing the books, there were things that we found to be lacking or that were problematic. I'll highlight 2. The orthography and the sentence construction. Sesotho was butchered in some of the books. And we thought of the reasons why the Sesotho was butchered in some of the books. And one can conclude that The books are not written by Basotho. They are translations of other books, and they are given to translators who are not Basotho to complete the work. Is that fair? Definitely not. Sesotho butchering or indigenous butchering of the languages in children's literature books and any other written form should come to a stand. To the publishers and the authors, when you produce literature in our respective languages, it should not be for a quick buck. Self-publishing, mother tongue speakers, mother tongue authors, when you self-publish, you cannot wear many hats in one, you cannot wear many hats. You cannot write, you cannot edit and publish yourself. Two eyes are better than another pair and other pairs. Publishers, we understand that we are working at deadlines, but the deadlines should not compromise our quality, the quality of our indigenous books. To the parents, Ntate Kid Sitole mentioned the term here, linguicide. Now I want us to pause and find out who are the linguiciders, who are those killing our languages. These are the people or the parents who send their children to English medium schools, and they fail to teach their children mother tongue at home. I would like to make a short example of the books that I was given to review. Out of the 30, I showed my daughter some that were hard copies and some were online. And she was able to, she's 8 years old in grade 3, and she goes to an English medium school. But I try by my best to ensure that she speaks Sesotho and she's able to read in Sesotho. And it so happened that in July, for Mandela International Day, they were asked to bring a book to read, and she chose her Mandela book, which is written in English. She reported, she's a storyteller here, but I'll just relay it. She told me that, you know what, Mama? When I got to school and we were reading our books, as I was reading my book, teacher said I must not read the entire book. Each learner must read a paragraph so that they can complete the story. The other kids, white and African, others were not able to pronounce the isiXhosa terms, and she was able to correct them. And as they were reading, one child said, teacher, what is this now? And the teacher said, no, you ask her. She's the expert in that. And she was very chuffed for that. So I think this can be duplicated in many families where we teach our children to read in mother tongue. If I may lament the case, given the opportunity, when we have our cultural events, or when we have our get-togethers, when we are setting out the tasks to be complete to ensure that the event is a success, what is the first thing that we think? We are thinking, okay, Malume Kosi, Le Osnombulelo, they drink Savannah. And then this one and this one, they drink Hunter's Dry, this one and this one. Whereas what we should be looking at, or what we should be prioritizing, is imparting the knowledge that we have about our language, our culture, and our identity to our children. If the first task that we allocate somebody is go to the library and borrow books so that they can come, sit here and read, the grandmothers and older people can then teach the children or tell the story tales, and they will also riddle. So I'm giving each one of the parents in here a task to say, the next get-together for the family, not the Hunter's Dry at the top, but maybe at the bottom. First thing, reading, riddles, and folk tales. As I conclude, Puku, to us, you are the Shiru in the literary arena. Umampudi, you are the champion. Umuhlokomedi, you are the custodian, caretaker. Puku, Ukhoku, ukhofu, e matswele a sisetsang bana ba Basotho ba bale. Ba bale le tlotlo le dingolweng tse fupereng tlotlo ya mantswe ya Sesotho le fala rona Basotho ba Lesotho la moshweshwe le japere maapara kobo ya kgaola ya.
Siyabonga kakhulu for that rousing presentation, and we are grateful that the kubo stayed on. That's what we call resilience. Thank you very, very much. We continue with our program, and now I am very honored to introduce to you Ms. Nkateko Emily Mabasa, the founder of Phoenix Alexander. Ms. Mabasa will be talking to us about Puku's Disability Mainstreaming Network. Can we give it a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? Okay. Nestul. Spelling mic. Igupi roving mic. Oh. Yeah. It's on. There we go. Nazu, is this okay? Alrighty. Comfortable? There we go. All right. Can I hold the mic for you?
No.
Also, right?
I think I should be fine.
Okay.
Oh,
With the papers.
I think because yeah.
I'm okay. Thank you.
I would say good morning, but I'm not sure if it's morning still. So, greetings to everybody. My name is Nkateko Emily Mabasa. I am the founder of Phoenix Alexandra, but I'm also an author of a children's book called Celebrating Our Differences, Embracing My Superpower. And I'm so honored to be amongst you all. And when Ubaba Stoller said Nkateko, I felt like he was reprimanding me.
Right.
So that was really a very beautiful moment for me, because he's the saying that he said, I know very well. So basically I'm going to share about the foundings that we worked with Puku. And there is a big difference in society between what is mandated and what is the right thing to do. The Puku Children's Literature Foundation is an entity that exists for inclusion and celebrating of African languages in all mediums of children's literatures, continues to work hard on its intellect and external effort on disability mainstream. Please allow me to list some of these current efforts and give you all something to think about, and to share what with Puku, any thoughts that you might have on how they can improve. There's always room for improvement, right? Yeah. So for the last several years now, Puku has appointed somebody living with a disability to be part of their core team to participate in decision making and involved in the key projects, because I like to say all the time, nothing about us without us. And a lot of the times we always left behind. So what Puku just did is to show that we're not only going to do or create a network that is going to talk about disability, but we're going to have somebody speak because they've experienced or they are experiencing that type of lifestyle. So thank you for that. Puku advocates for the extension of spaces like these that are barrier-free. So we ask questions in advance about accessibility. It's important that I have access, that Homolime has access, that other people like ourselves have access. And such like your parking space, is it close enough to the ramp? Do we have lifts? Things like that that need to be considered. So we are appreciative to the UNISA team for taking all of that into consideration. Puku also works with partners to include multilingual South African language interpreter, because it's important that also the deaf community gets to experience their own language in sign language. And this I learned. I actually thought there's only one type of sign language. I also learned there's different types of sign language, and it was quite interesting that we also have it in our African languages. It's something that we need to acknowledge and give, praise to, because sign language is now an official language of South Africa, which I'm grateful for as well. So, Puku has founded a growing partnership with the South African Library for Blind as advisors on issues for the visually impaired in rebuilding digital spaces. The internet can be as much an equal universe as it can be closed and inaccessible. If you are visually impaired, even hard of hearing, or have an intellectual or neurological disability, Puku will keep on exploring other similar partnerships to widen representation and inclusion. So thank you once again. Puku purchases and independently reviews samples of children's books that you've all heard them telling you, but most of all, they're doing this for characters who are living with disabilities that we lack a lot of in the literature space, because a lot of the times children have access to books, but are they representing or are they seeing themselves in those books, especially kids with disabilities? And I'm so grateful that I was given the opportunity to write a book that actually shows them that there is somebody like you that can appear in a book. So that's a beautiful thing that can happen. Puku has also established a disability mainstream network, which I'm part of, to benefit from specific knowledge, insights, and into a number of broad issues, including children's literature and upskilling communities living with disability on the Puku's digital worlds. The work is ongoing of the Disability Mainstream Network, and we continue to research and present key issues to amplify the state of disability representation, the unique digital needs of communities living with disabilities, and to guide Puku's goals. Yet Puku's mainstream network is not a distant technical team. We started the lives with literatures, histories, and team members. So far, I would like to share what we've learned. Right. I hope you're all listening, because you're all looking at me like... Having access to multilingual literature is a significant life changer for a child living with a disability, myself included. I only learned English and Afrikaans growing up, how to read. Obviously, I can speak African languages, but now that's a different thing when you have to read the books. Only now as an adult, I'm learning, because I didn't have that access. And luckily now, Puku is giving kids that are coming after me the opportunity to learn, and not having to learn when they're done with school. So that's such a beautiful thing that they're doing. Both stories, books have extraordinary impacts for those of us who are blessed enough to be surrounded by types of literatures growing up. Books and stories open up worlds for a child in a wheelchair that would never literally be accessible to. They can go to Italy, we've never been there, through a book. You can imagine the idea of them being in South Korea by just reading a book about South Korea. So books can take you around the world without you ever leaving your house. But I'm not saying don't leave your house. It teaches them hope, and it teaches them that even though they have medical issues that they are going through, and that a lot of people will use them as studies to improve the literature space, that stories are able to improve these kids' lives and people with disabilities, myself included. I could not speak and I sit before you today, or stand before you because I like to stand here. I'm going to say I'm standing before you. Because of books, I can speak. It's given me the confidence to say, let me practice the words that I'm reading. Let me practice all of that and see if I can verbalize it. Number two, the level of impact that all the members of Puku Disability Mainstream have been involved have had unforgettable moments, like a grandfather learning sign language just to teach his granddaughter, or just to tell his granddaughter's stories. You know, the art of telling stories, or having, like they mentioned earlier, it's important that we don't focus on the alcohol, we focus on the storytelling when we're amongst kids, and that is such a beautiful thing, that an adult, like an elderly, could learn sign language just to tell a story to their grandchild. So that's such a beautiful journey that was shared. And also, just to mention other people, it was also discovered that because others did not have access to books, physical books or digital books like we have today, they would listen into radio to our beautiful South African storytellers, just like Umamqina Mhlophe, who was on the radio, who was on our televisions, to listen to these stories and to have kids be interested in the live storytelling of books and different, stories that are available in our country. I'm almost done. Okay. There is no point in learning how to read when there is no books to read, correct? So if 3/4 of all public schools in South Africa don't have a library, which is also what I've come to acknowledge in my own community, because I come from Alex, aka Gomora. We don't have a public library, which I had to then, through my organization, create. Now we have a library that I'm trying to get kids to access. Yeah, so people don't see books as a form of, a prize or gift, but it's important for them to view it that way, because with books you get so much knowledge and you can learn so much. Not forgetting that we do need books in Braille and we do need books in large print, because there are those who do not, who are not completely blind and are just hard of seeing and need to be able to read and experience the physical paper. So that's one of the things that Puku is currently working on. And of course, I cannot forget the sign language grammar. Why is it not in the spoken language? Because I have a friend that has, who is deaf, who uses sign language. But whenever we text, I have to now think, she's not texting me like I would text any other person. She's texting me like she's signing to me, which is difficult to translate if I didn't know her. I would think she doesn't know how to spell or she doesn't know how to place her words, but she's doing it because of how when you when you sign certain words and you write them in the sign language, you do it the same way. Pretty much like Afrikaans. You write Afrikaans the way you say it. The same way with sign language, but with sign language, it should be changed for them to actually be able to write just like the ordinary Joe. So that's one of the things that Puku is fighting for. Lastly, profoundly and importantly, all kids to interact with children with disabilities. With my book, I hope to get not only children with disabilities to be interested in it, but families without children with disabilities to write, to read it, and spark conversations. Have these kids ask. We were talking, me and Khumanlime earlier, and I said to her, you know what, one thing that irritates me most about people that I meet in public is that they never allow the kids to come and ask me questions. I want to know what that kid is thinking. Maybe I could help them understand the disability sector better for when they grow up. So we need such books that present and represent kids that are going to see themselves, and not only that, kids that don't have disability, to know that there are people that are different from us and we need to embrace. And 7%, listen to this percentage, 7% of all South African people living with disabilities, children and adults, right? But there's, out of that 4 million people, there's only 7% of South Africans living with disabilities, yet our members' lived experience and research for the network, characters living with disabilities do not even reach 1%. How's that even okay? It's not okay. As much as we are fighting for our African languages to be represented, can we also fight for disabilities to be represented in spaces like this? We need to do better. We need books that are written for us in mind. We need digital spaces to plan for us as end users. We need libraries and bookstores to be designed infrastructures to embrace us. When I was coming here, I will be honest, I was waiting to see if the tiles are gonna make me slip. I was checking. Are things okay here? And I'm gonna give feedback. So I'm always on the lookout, okay? And with all that I have said, the Disability Network Disability Mainstream Network, I hope you understood what the work entailed, what Puku is trying to do in the disability sector, and that if you are interested in asking questions or being more involved in adding value, because everybody has a story to tell, everybody can add value, please do reach out to Puku. Do not just sit there and think, I should have done it. Do it. And with all of that said, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Nkateko. Ikenzile. Inkomo. Siyabonga kakhulu. Can we get a bit of music, a poetic interlude, just to wash down the amazing talks and presentations we've just had? Katjen Boyabenyati, please bless us again with a little something, something.
Yazwakala. Oh.
Oh, wow.
Ungadlanga yimi adliwe yinja inja kagogo emabalabala enomlomo bovu vuku nogwaje vuke balo sathi sajule ngishaye entanyeni owa 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 mntwana owa mntwana umama-ke uyothenga amasi omntwana bathadliwe yimi engadliwe yimi adliwe yinja inja kagogo emabalabala enolomo bovu vuku nogwaje vuke balo thathi sajule ngishaye entanyeni owa 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 owa. Lena engiyiphethe la yinsimbi yomculo wesintu ebizwa umakhweyana ngolwimi lwesiZulu. AmaXhosa ayibiza uhadi. EMozambique naseVenda ibizwa ishitende. AbeSuthu bathi yisirhapa. ETanzania ibizwa indono. Inamagama ahlukahlukene kwizinhlanga ezahlukahlukene. Kwizwekazi lase-Afrika ibikade idlalwa ngomama kuphela. Beyibeka la ebeleni phambi kwenhliziyo. Lokho kuthiwa bekade kunguphawu lokuncelisa ingane. Uzokhumbula ukuthi uma uncelisa noma ukhulisa ingane mele ube nenhliziyo, ube nothando, ube nesineke. Ngoba lengane ngesinye isikhathi iyakhala, leso sikhathi idlile isuthi, igezile kodwa iyakhala. Uthi uyayincelisa ikululuma ibele. Anyeke ukuthi njengoma wayo hayi angisayifuni lengane. Mele ukuthi ube nesineke, uyithande, uyikhulise. Lensimbi yomculo wesintu ibiphinde idlalwe uma kuculwa imilolozelo yokulalisa izingane noma kuxoxwa izinganekwane. Uzokhumbula ukuthi mandulo bezingekho izikole, izingane kade zifundiswa ngokuxoxelwa izinganekwane ngoba yonke indaba inesifundo. Ngakho ke omama nogogo kade badume kakhulu ngalowo msebenzi futhi bewenza ngothando. Umakhweyane lona wahamba waya ezweni laseBrazil lapho bawubiza khona imbirimbawu. Ukuze ufike ezweni laseBrazil wathathwa wokhokho nokhokholozi bethu ngenkathi bethunjwa abatshapi bebayisa kwelaseNtshonalanga. EBrazil lapho ke bafika bawusebenzisa umakhweyane lona beyenza umdlalo obizwa ngecapoeira. Icapoeira lena umuyibheka ubungacabanga ukuthi umdanso kodwa akuwona umdanso, indlela yokukwazi ukuba uzivikele. Kodwa okhokho bebenzela ukuthi laba bebacindezela bangakwazi ukubona, bazitshele ukuthi bayadansa. Yingakho ke yaqala ukudlalwa wobaba bona beyibeka la esiswini. Yilona uhambo lwami ngomakhweyane leli kodwa ngisazojula kakhulu. Ngiyabonga.
Kacheni webenyathi, siyabonga kakhulu. I'm reliably told that there's a book on umakhweyane that you've written. So for more on umakhweyane and to get the story behind, you can check out that book. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Now we move on to the other page of the program. We will now get a presentation on Pukupedia. When I saw this word, I promise you, this is brilliant. Whoever came up with this word, bravo, bravo, bravo. It's mind-blowing. You know when you see a word and you think, what? Pukupedia? Who came up with this word? I promise you, it's such a brilliant label for it. And to do that, we will have a person who will be presenting it, but I'm not worthy to introduce the person who will be presenting Pukupedia. I will ask Ume Elena Sisulu to assist us with the introduction. Over to you, Ume.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to introduce my colleague, Melvin. But before I do that, I just must mention a couple of things which I forgot to mention, or acknowledgements which I forgot to make. So we have another partner, BiblioNef, which is not presented here, which is a book donation organization which we partner with. We've got Dushanka, who's representing IBI, and BiblioNef, Sunita Ahmad, supports us a lot. And when we do our catalog project, we rely on their catalogs, to their collection, to start off with choosing the 100 recommended books. So I mentioned BiblioNef, and I'm also mentioning and acknowledging a colleague of mine, and I know she won't like it because she's very modest, Nomvuyo Mzamane, who does our children's our book reviews, and she's doing a book review workshop at BiblioNef on Tuesday the 17th in partnership with IBI in Cape Town. So in those of you who are in Cape Town, the invitation is open. It's first come, first served. And we're very proud of the book review workshops, and we hope that this is an area of our work that is going to grow considerably. I also acknowledge Nomvuyo for the Disability Mainstreaming Network, because, you know, when we apply for these projects, you put disability mainstreaming. It can just be a word, but she really put meat onto the bone and made sure that we really not just doing this as paying lip service, but we actually do the hard work that's going to be involved in this. And in Katego, I'm thankful to her for outlining the work, and yeah, there she is coming in just on time. Who has done, and in Katego, I'm just saying what amazing work that you people have done in a very short time, and it's very exciting. I think there's a lot of books that are going to come out of the efforts and the creativity of this group. And then I also want to acknowledge we have a special visitor, Ken Wilson Max, who some of you admire. If you can just stand up, he's a UK-based but Zimbabwean author of children's books, who has published how many books, Ken? 80 children's books. He's an illustrator and a writer and a publisher. And he's also, his books, I love the way he deals with gender in the books. And hopefully we'll be reviewing more of his books. And I must mention that he's also my relative. So I mentioned the others first because they're important, but you know, we have a very, very big family, and I think we're the only two involved with children's books. So it's really, hopefully, and I say this, we've said it before, but maybe if I say it in front of an audience, it'll happen, that we're planning to do a children's book together in the not too distant future. And then the other thing that I didn't mention was that Greg, who is filming there, some of you from UNISA may recognize him. We did at the International Mother Language Day celebration in partnership, again, the trio, on 21st of February this year. And we honored Oma Katrina Iso, who's the last speaker of the new language. And we've had a book, the first, only book we know of, in Ngu, that's this folktale that she told, that she narrated to us, and New Africa Books, represented by Dushanka, she's wearing several hats, published that book, and we were able to pay Oma royalties, and we're very proud of this for the book. So which all goes towards her work to preserve the Ngu language. And on 29th of September, is it Greg? Greg produced a film, a documentary, which is making waves on the international film circuit on Oma's life and a struggle to preserve her language. And it's going to be on the SABC on the 29th of September. It will be screened on the SABC. So please, please, people, just watch that space. Please watch it, because the more uptake, the more consumption of these products, the more it supports the Ngu language, the efforts to, there's only Oma who's the only mother tongue speaker, and there's 2 other speakers, or a Ngu language speaker who she has taught. And we're working with UNISA to try and help them, the people that she has taught, to continue with the work. And Oma is 91 this year, so we had celebrated her 91st birthday. So those were the things I had forgotten to mention. And then now I come to my colleague Melvin, who's another person who likes to stay in the background and, you know, just do his thing and confuse us with his digital talk. Melvin is a publisher, bookseller, I don't know if he's current or past president of the South African Booksellers Association. Are you current or past? Past, okay. So he's a former president of the South African Booksellers Association. He's also a digital expert, UX design expert, and he sat on the Puku board for many years and played a big role in assuring that we were financially compliant. And he was the person who, you know, when you make payments, he'd be the one to question things and say, what is this about? So he played that role for many years, and then he left Puku. And just when I was wondering, how are we going to do this work of the ONIX platform, what we were communicating with Andrew about the South African publishers or book ecosystem adopting ONIX standards for bibliographic metadata. And I was wondering, we thought, yes, it's important for children's books, especially to promote a multilingual children's literature. And how are we going to do this digitally? And Melvin just phoned and said, you know, I've taken voluntary retrenchment and I'm available. And yeah, he just came. So my prayers were answered. And so he's been working very hard on this platform. And what I've learned is that developers are like car mechanics or like builders. They'll tell you your car will be ready next week, or the builder will say your house will be ready next week, and it never happens. My father was a builder, so I know this. It never happens on time. And so so even as I speak here, I don't know how far we are, but I'm going to leave it to Melvin to tell us where we are on Pukupedia. Thank you.
Before we even start, everyone here just looks amazing in your traditional wear, the people that are wearing the traditional wear. Thank you very much for doing that. I'm sorry that I'm standing here looking like an FBI agent. It's one of those things, corporate force of habit. The last time I was doing a presentation here, it was my employer's Van Skyke in the Van Skyke room. And with that, you have to wear the suit and everything. So I apologize in advance. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. Okay, I can do that.
And then your presentation.
Yeah, it should be here. Cool. Okay. All right. Yeah, using someone else's computer is like driving somebody's car. You know where everything is, but you don't want to touch anything in case you mess it up. Okay, so here. Okay, I think that's the one. Okay, so my name is Melvin. I spent a great deal of time, 15 odd years at Van Skyke, in charge of the digital initiatives of Van Skyke Bookstore. So I'm responsible for those of you that have kids that are at university. I'm responsible for them spending the money at vanskyke.com, as well as the rewards app that gives them free airtime and data and stuff like that when they buy from Van Skyke. So you can blame me, but then you can also sort of congratulate me for helping them through their education, right? It's one of those balanced things. There's good and there's bad in digital. But one of the things that we're trying to do here is trying to do the good stuff. And I was drawn to this project primarily because, and I'm going to just, because we don't have that much time, and I also don't want to keep you from lunch, I want to just go through some of these. One of the reasons why I was drawn to this is that if you look at Nielsen statistics, Nielsen captures book data for the South African book market via a panel of booksellers. And in their statistics in 2022, you'll see there that there was quite a large share in terms of children's and adult fiction. That's about a quarter. That's 25.53%. Let me just make that more clear. Okay, that wasn't supposed to do that. See that. This one. Nope. Display settings, yeah. Right. This one. Great, thank you. Okay, teamwork makes the dream work. All right. So yeah, 25.5% over a quarter in 2022, as per Nielsen, was children's and adult. Okay. Driving somebody else's car. Where's my forward? Space. I'm trying that. It's not working. Okay. I think. Okay. Now it's gone. All right. There we go. So. Okay. So if you look at that stat, what it means is that, in terms of total book sales, your exclusive books and bargain books and all of those, that you would have had 25.5% of those sales being for children's books. What is unfortunate in that statistic, and you can see it now in the following year, is that it dropped. And part of the reason why we believe that it dropped is because parents were going into these stores looking for children's books in their own languages. They wanted to buy books, upwardly mobile people that represent the country, the vast majority of us, having the children that wanting to read more in their own languages and just couldn't get access to the books. In the 2024 ones will be out just now. I'm on the panel that selects the South African Book Awards on behalf of PASA and South African Booksellers Association, and we'll get those stats in the next month or so. But I'm pretty sure that also would have shown a decrease, because, and not that there's anything wrong with English language books, but we need more books that talk to our experiences as people, and those are more definitely in our own languages. They are not necessarily the ones that, your Harry Potter is great, but you want to have, especially at an ECD level, you want to have those stories being told in a language that the child has as their mother tongue. And that's why this project was so important to me. The benefits of that, obviously in terms of schooling and in terms of making children understand concepts from a foundation level, have already been proven by the research. Some of the research has been done here at UNISA, that if a child begins to learn in their own language at ECD level, they are just that much more successful in the rest of their schooling. We are seeing they call it a crisis, and I know the chancellor of the university used to say, "What crisis?" Former President Mbeki was, yeah, but I think it is a crisis. That we have a problem in terms of how children are able then to comprehend the written word. We're seeing that in the PROS results, the research that was done at Stellenbosch, and University of Pretoria that shows that children cannot read for comprehension at grade 4. So we do have a problem. The National Reading Barometer, Eleanor sits on the National Reading Barometer, amongst other things, in National Reading Panel. And so even there, it shows that I think it was 31% of South Africans don't have books for their children in their homes. And part of the reason for that, I genuinely believe, is because there are not enough of those books in our languages. So yeah, as a short intro, I'm not going to bore you too much with the other stuff, but this is what Puku wants to achieve. Okay, so on the one hand, we have a book review workshop program that was being done at Rhodes University this year with teachers, trainee teachers, that would then encourage them to write book reviews, which then presumably would allow for those children to then get excited about reading, as an example. And also in place of you know, the traditional role that a parent would play in terms of getting the children excited for that. The other goal that we have is this that I'm going to present now shortly, which is, it's difficult to explain metadata to non-technical people, but what I'll say is you have a way in which you describe a product, and in this case, a product is the book. And if you describe it well enough, you're then able to exchange that data with other entities that require that information. So if we're talking about the book value chain, we're saying, I'll go here. We're saying there's a value chain that includes the publishers, the booksellers, the librarians, the teachers, and government departments, the Department of Basic Education. That value chain relies on this data being easily exchangeable. Okay, so the best thing to do is to have a standard. And what we've adopted is something called an ONIX standard, ONIX 3.1 for anyone that is really wanting to get into the detail. But that is the standard that we have decided to now offer to this value chain. But in creating those ONIX records, we, as Puku, will be enhancing them so that they are more representative of the books themselves. And also, we are putting in the value of those books, the languages, the multilingualism. Okay, so we're trying to prevent the linguicide that we heard about earlier by having more of these books available across the value chain using this metadata. That's the easiest explanation I can give. Is that okay? All right. So with that, there are two technology stacks at play. There's the B2B side, which is business to business, and then there's the B2C, which is the business to consumer. That is where the interface happens between the data that we have of those books and how it's presented to the parents and the consumers at the end, the children themselves that are reading, and the parents that are typically the ones who will be selecting those books. So the better we make that data, the more representative we make it in terms of showing what languages are available, the more likely then those parents will be able to buy it. Okay, so if I go ahead here, gone over that. Okay, so what we've noticed, and since I started looking after the digital assets of Puku, we've obviously seen, you know, the habits in terms of how people are interacting with the website. They're looking for children's books. They're looking for languages and they can't find them. That's a problem generally. If you go into any of the other search services, you go into google.com and you look for a children's book about courage in Chivenda. You're not going to find it. Why? Because the metadata doesn't exist in that language. So if you solve this one problem, and we all know, if it's not the children, it's the parents who look for everything on Google, right? And when they're looking for something, they will Google it. If you're looking to find a book, it has to be discoverable. So what this does, what this ONIX metadata does, is it makes the book more discoverable. One of the things that we've seen, obviously, and there was coming from the presentations that have come before, Afrikaans titles are really big, okay? Because the Afrikaans community has invested so much in their languages. They have, I mean, there's talk of a university and all of these things, but beyond that, there's a dedicated effort in preserving the languages. So you take lessons, right? And you take lessons and you say, well, how do we preserve our languages? If you look for an Afrikaans book on pretty much any theme, you'll find it, because the metadata is already there, right? Whereas it's not there in Sesotho, it's not there in Setswana, and Tsonga, and so on and so on. So we kind of have to learn from that. What you can also see in terms of these stats, this is just over the last 90 days as a snapshot, there are a lot of people in the diaspora. There are a lot of people that are living in America, a lot of South Africans that are living in the UK and Australia and so on, who are looking for these books as well. So it cannot be that Eleanor opens a bookshop on the corner of Faraday Street and hopes that people will come and buy. It has to be online. And this is the reason why this has to be online, so that it's accessible globally, worldwide, and available 24/7, so that whoever's looking for a mother who's a lecturer. So I had to listen to a lot of lectures, more than you, especially when things went wrong. So yeah, this is the way I spend the way, and I'm not a coconut. I'm not putting on an accent. This is actually how I speak. I spent a lot of time overseas. My parents worked for the United Nations, and so there's New York for 6 years, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not putting on an act, and it gets worse when I'm nervous, right? So I sound even more American than I should. So that's a definition of metadata. Moving forward. Okay, so in terms of why are we here and why are we doing this, and this is the corporate stuff. Marketing works in different ways, but in order for people to be aware of a product, they have to know about it. And this is one of those ways in which we're engaging with, hopefully yourselves, who are going to be users of the product, in order for you to know a little bit more about why we're doing it and what it's for. The other will be other things that'll come. So you will be on a database. You will be hearing from Puku via our partners at Salesforce. We will be launching some campaigns, newsletters, and so on, just to keep you informed as the project goes on. And of course, when we are done, we'll probably be showcasing some of the features that we've added to ONIX. Okay, I've covered that. Okay, this again shows you, and this is from Nielsen, it shows you what happens when you have what they call descriptive metadata elements. So I'm describing this book about courage in Chivenda, right? But I'm only saying the title of the book. Unfortunately, that's not enough to draw the attention and make that book more discoverable. The more metadata elements I add, the better that book becomes in terms of being able to be found when it's being searched for on the internet. And you can see here, in terms of children's books, if you only have one element, what they call a metadata element, these are, and unfortunately I have to be the corporate guy, these are your sales, okay? If you have 2 data elements, this is your sales. If you have 4, it goes up to that. So already in terms of the white papers and so on, it shows that the more metadata elements you have, the more likely your book is able to be discovered. The BDS is a company that we're working with in the United Kingdom. That's the mechanics that Eleanor was talking about, pushing out. At the end, and I did this just in case my demonstration doesn't work or there's a problem with the internet, this is a complete metadata record, which I think I did this the other day. So this is just code, but the machines understand this, right? So when we're sending this data packet, this metadata from where it's being created at Pukupedia to the library, they will understand this. The library machines will understand it. If we're sending this to a publisher in terms of after doing our value addition and enhancing their metadata that they send us, their machines will understand this. And then that then goes to the booksellers, who also understand this because they have the same peer-to-peer language that they talk, which is called ONIX. Okay, so that would be what that thing looks like at the end. Okay, I can try and do the live demo. But essentially, this is what the back end looks like. And what we've done, which is different from anything else that a publisher would buy off the shelf in terms of a metadata package, is we've added the languages. And I'm sure you can see them there. We've added all the 11, including sign language. Right. I have to tell you the story. I was traveling, I think, to Frankfurt Book Fair. And one of the connections was through Dubai. And Dubai has this museum of the future, right? Which is just an amazing place where they talk about future discoveries, technology, etc. And I thought, geez, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to get a ticket and be out. It was packed. Get to the queue, eventually get to the front, and I'm looking at the prices. And they've got an adult price, they've got a children's price, and they've got a price that says POD. And I asked, I don't speak Arabic, so I asked whoever was around, what does this POD mean? And they said, no, there's a discounted price for, no, they don't call them persons of disability, they call them persons of determination. Wow. Yeah, that's, you know, in autocratic dictatorships, you can make people do things like that. But this just goes to show you, I mean, we take for granted being able to walk and read. There are people that are visually impaired. There are technologies that are now available to assist with that. And this is one of the ways in which we're making that happen. So thank you for your presentation, by the way. I think give her another hand, please. So yes, we're doing the languages, including sign language. I think going forward, and this is way into the future, there are technologies that allow persons who can't see or hear to enable them to read a book. They do it through haptic feedback. So you put your hand on the tablet and it vibrates the fingers. So the person can read by feeling and sensation. So digital makes that happen. And that's why if we're trying to do anything that's going to reach the maximum amount of people, it has to be digital. So I know people always attack me, no, but you know, you need to do this and there's things on the ground. But when you want scale, it has to be a digital that you go for. So that's just an example of what we're doing, which is different from anyone else at Puku, by making sure that we categorize these books and we add value to them by bringing in the language. I think what I'll do here, let me just go through there. So that at the end of the day, when Puku has an e-commerce platform, a place where people can buy books, this is essentially what it will look like. And if you see there, at the bottom, you can see that all of this is in Sesotho, right? As it stands now, you wouldn't be able to get this. If you go on Takealot, you go wherever you go to buy your books, exclusive books, etc., you won't find those languages because that metadata hasn't been captured that way. So what we've done as a start is we've taken those 100 books in Sesotho, the 100 recommended books in Sesotho, and we started with those, started capturing them so that they will then form the basis by which people that are looking at the Sesotho catalog will be able to read it in their own language. And yeah, that's pretty much the project. I can go into a live demo if I can figure out how to get out of this thing. Escape. Right. Okay. Email. Okay, so if I go there, and I hope I remember the password. I think program director was asking who came up with the Pukupedia. It was not me. It's the woman sitting next to you. Eh? It was you. Was it Colleen Higgs from Mojaji?
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Colleen Higgs, not bad. That's the Pukupedia. Okay. Dash. see. Ah, great. Okay, it works. Fantastic. No. I don't want people at UNISA knowing my password. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so essentially when you go into, and I'll just make this quick, you essentially are creating a new article or a new book. You go in, you put a title in, and I don't know, let's say, let's say, Demakatsu Tsaron. How's that? Okay, you create a new record, it creates the record, and thereafter, okay, so that's that. You can see all of that. We can add in different types of media. We can add in videos. We can add in the sound for persons that are visually impaired. We can put in commentary, as well as all the contributors. So in other words, if you have a book, but it's been translated by Lorato Trok, as an example, you can put that in so that it enhances that metadata, but also you can put in all that information in the language that the person is going to be buying the book in. So if it's Sesotho, we'll put all that information into Sesotho. I just want to go here. Okay, so if I go there. Okay, right. And I think I created one of them already. Okay. Okay, so you can see all of these are live and they're available. And in there, so I've already done most of this, but in there you can put in the title in its original language. You can then say what that language is. You then can add contributors to that, and you can also have their bibliographic information, as I've said. The rest of the stuff is more or less what happens everywhere else in metadata, but particularly here where you've got the text. So the writer of this particular book, I think she's the chairperson of Oxford Publishers in the UK, but she wrote Fatima Dada. She wrote a lot of these in Sesotho. And that is recognizable as text. So in other ONIX platforms, if you try and do this, it will come up with an error saying this isn't in English and you can't proceed. This recognizes those languages. We've made sure that all of that is available, and then it enhances the book, and thereafter we create the record. So let's just save that. We say there, and then we say we export that record. And I'm choosing ONIX version 3.1, which is the latest one. And there we go. Oh no, I made a mistake. Did I make a mistake? Oh, it's not, no, I didn't, it's complete. And there it is, and then I can check whether I made any mistakes using the online log. It tells me that everything here is perfect. And once I've got that, I can then export it to any publisher, any bookseller. Anyone that needs the data will then be able to have it. And once they have the data, it means that when someone is looking for that book, they're then able to find it that much quicker. They're able then to have it on their websites. They're then able to have it in their libraries in its original language without the need for translation into English. So that is, let's see if that'll. And that's a typical ONIX record as the output. So when you're sending a catalog, it will be all of these sort of next to each other, but the machine on the other side will be able to understand it. And that's a live demonstration. Thank you very much for your attention. I don't know if the online people got all that. I hope they did. Okay, great.
Melvin,
Yes.
could you mention Barlow World Empowerment Foundation and Mulani Trust, Empowerment Trust that
Okay.
helped with this work?
So Puku works with stakeholders. We've seen some of them presenting here, as well as BiblioNF that didn't, and others. But in terms of the funding side of things, we do reach out to companies such as Humulani and Barlow World Empowerment Trust and others in order to fund the work. This is not, I don't want to say cheap, right? But this is like literally the Rolls Royce of metadata. And so it's expensive. In order for it to be able to be customizable like this, it really is. And so we do rely on donors to help us, not just with the architecture, but also to pay for the tools that we need in order to make this happen, as well as the staff and the events, some of the events that we hold. So yeah, we're very thankful to Barlow World and others for assisting us in getting us this far. Yeah. All right.
All right, I'll just stand next to you.
Okay.
While you sort that out.
Yeah, I think there was on the program.
All right. Thank you very much, Mervyn. We really, really appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause. We are way behind schedule. I don't even know what to say, but this mimics what happens when we start reading. You get a book and you say, I'll just spend half an hour. Next thing you know, you are 5 hours into the book. So it's okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now moving to that moment when we have respondents. But before we go there, let me just acknowledge the Dean of the College of Human Sciences who joined online. I have to do that. Someone mentioned IPMS somewhere. So thank you very much, Professor Nkosi. We see you online and we appreciate you. So as we go to the respondents, Melvin, I went to WhatsApp Meta and then I searched children's literature in isiZulu. I laughed out loud because one of the books says, Umbuzo wethu, translated our goat. So on that note, Puku means book. In Sipedi, Sisutu, just Sipedi. Okay, so it means Puku. So for those of us who speak isiZulu and isiXhosa, it is not impuku, which is mouse. This is Puku, book. Thank you very much. May I get our respondents ready? We'll get Mr. Kepi Madumo, the CEO of National Library of South Africa, Mr. Andrew Joseph, Chair of South African National Metadata User Group, or Metadata, and Prof. Laurette Jacobs, woohoo, CHS, Professor Laurette Jacobs, who's the Chair of Department Information Science. May I request that we take the floor because you will be responding. And according to the program, you have 20 minutes, but because you are sitting here and your eyesight is directly just looking at the food, that, you know, so this was strategic. As you contribute, just keep your eye on the prize, keep your eye on the book. I think you're okay. I'm not going to facilitate this. I'm just going to hand over to you. I don't know how you've arranged yourself, so I'm just going to move away a bit. Okay, careful. Injury on duty. I don't think we can afford that. You need a roving mic. Can you get a microphone? Unless you can.
We can try and speak very loud
for the streaming.
For the
streaming people, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Program Director, and let me take the opportunity to write on the protocol that has already been observed, and also to thank our host, UNISA Library and Puku, I think, and all the other partners, ILIFA, Biblionev, and EB. I think this is the partnership that works. And maybe let me quickly, I just made some few notes here. It was quite a very engaging, informative session. And just to highlight what stood out for me from the presentations and the inputs that were made by various presenters, I think maybe let me start by making this observation that came especially from Ntate Tole. I think when we talk about partnership in the whole network of the ecosystem, I think we strive to get partnership that yield results. And from what we are seeing here or witnessing today here, we can witness to all the work that has been done by selfless people with little resources to produce what we are seeing. And I think what also came out for me from Tate Tole's presentation is the need to invest in our languages. And we know today we have African Style Museum, we have the former English Literature Museum, and today called Amazwi. It was because of the deliberate efforts that was made by those who were in charge to invest in those languages at the time. And I think we call upon now to strengthen all these efforts to expand to other languages. And yeah, I think a call was made around the issues of advocacy. Let's go and support the event as much as we organize all these other conferences, men's conferences and all that. I think let's make it an effort to contribute to all these initiatives that help us to preach and inculcate the love of reading, especially amongst our children. And I think Mayor Elnoy, I think it was refreshing to see Prof. Van der Walt. Actually, when I came here, I was taken by a little bit by surprise because I also once attended the children's storytelling workshop or conference. I think the one was held in Bombela. It was, I mean, you know, it's a good thing that as academics and especially from the LIS field, we expand, transcend beyond all this traditional LIS curriculum, especially to our practicing librarians to understand these things in practice, in reality. And let me also touch, and I think we really appreciate the efforts that Puku has done to acknowledge his contribution in this regard, especially children's literature. And, you know, I think Dr. Ntsana, you reminded me, you know, my elder son is 24 years. During his great-grandmother's funeral, he was trying to read all those reads and all the messages. And I was sitting next to my second-born son, and then he just whispered on my ear, said, "Oh, Daddy, it's so bad." Because he was just butchering all this Sepedi language, Sepedi words and all that. And he says, "Oh, Daddy, it's so bad." So, and I think these are the things that we should not forget where we come from as parents. And, you know, Kateko, I'm wearing this not because it's a fashion statement. I just came from an eye procedure, and you know, as you were talking, you were just reminding us that as much as we are able today, and we are in charge, as we make all these policies, we must be mindful of the dark days if anything goes wrong. And you know, in my early days, I used to work for the Department of Social Development. And when we were conducting workshop around the new social security system in communities, and one old guy was very angry, and he said, yeah, I see all of you, you are young, and you are coming up with all these policies that are making it difficult for us old people to function and operate. I warn you, one day you will be old, and the very same policies that you design will bite you. So I think your presentation was basically reminding us to say, yes, there is a community of the visually impaired, and also I think it was also raised by, I don't remember, around the issues of people with disability, to ensure that we make sure that the content that we produce within all this medium is representative and also mindful to represent the aspirations and the experiences of people with disabilities. And I think the issue of the challenges that you raised with the school library system, and I think a few days ago, the new Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture signed an MOU with the Department of Education, Basic Education, and one would have loved that MOU to extend to school libraries, and it's something that I think it needs to be persuaded. And I think lastly, Tate Kabe, I think the soft launch of the ONIX, basically it's a anti-climax for us as the LIS, because I think for me, from the National Library side, we can't wait to see this seamless integration of the systems of metadata creation, legal deposit, and more so because we know that public libraries are struggling. We have a very funny SCM process in our country for purchasing books, and which makes it difficult for libraries to get books quicker to the users, you know, and we hope that I think this new technology will assist us to be a groundbreaking to help us navigate through some of these challenges. Thank you. Otherwise, I must thank Mel Noy for this. I mean, she's a connect of people, and we really appreciate. I know you don't like this limelight.
Thank you very much. It seems like I'm next instead of last. I have to say, from the academic side, which is obviously the space in which I look at life, how we can educate our students, how we can expand the projects that we are involved in, how we can support our communities. Today was an eye-opener, and I have to express my gratitude, Eleanor, for you always being there. As Dr. Mr. Madumo said, you connect us, you make sure that we understand one another and where we come from. The project that Prof. Van der Walt started many years ago, you talked about the Bella Bella project, it is still continuing, and we will be in the field next week for our storytelling project. So most of the Department of Information Science will be out in Limpopo next week to capture stories in languages that children enjoy, and to bring that back and again publish the books around that. In addition to that, what we've also started was, and this is a bit technical, so you will understand this, is the OER project, that's Open Educational Resources, where we want children to have resources in their own languages. So those resources are obviously digital, but still that's the way in which we want to develop the children and make sure that they've got access to that. So that's a big project that I hope that we in the Puku Foundation can talk about and expand and make more available to other communities. We've started in KZN, so we definitely want to expand to the others. Then in terms of your ONIX project, we have spoken about that before, and we've got quite a lot of very bright, talented young catalogers in our department, or shall I call them subject organizers instead of catalogers. And definitely with the new qualification that we are rolling out in 2026, the ONIX system will be something that we will teach our students. Great. So that is something that we have on the table, on the cards as well. So we are definitely again going to come and knock on your door so that we can get access to the system and that our students can practically also contribute to developing the system and adding information onto that, especially the metadata. I mean, we've got quite a number of students in the department, so we can definitely expand that. So I also want to thank everybody that were here today, sharing their knowledge, sharing their ideas. It was really wonderful. I know most of my colleagues were watching online because, you know, the world of an academic, you have to run around and be master of everything and so on. So we are online, and thank you for my colleagues in my department as well for their support. Colleagues, and then lastly, from my side, I just want to say next year we are partnering with the library in what we call the UNISA conference. It's a huge conference that will be in the beginning of April. Please diarize it. Please come. One of the key areas there is also literacy, development of books, supporting the learners, seeing how we can expand that to communities. So please feel free, watch the space. It will be marketed well. So I hope to see you all there as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks very much. And thanks so much to the organizers and everyone for inviting us to speak here today. I am wearing quite a few hats, as a few of us are, but I bring you congratulations and thanks from Wits University Press, where I work, and the Publishers Association of South Africa as well. So congrats to everyone for getting this together. In one of the many manifestations that I present myself, I'm the chair of the National Metadata User Group, and that's part of the Publishers Association, where we're bringing together publishers, sort of everyone in the supply chain, in the value chain of book production. So publishers, distributors, printers, these people who run digital online stores, but also academic departments, publishing studies departments, library catalogers. And the thinking behind it is, I mean, it's been so moving hearing so many people speak today about the power of language and the necessity for understanding each other and understanding ourselves and being able to express that. And I think in many ways, and this might be stretching the analogy, but that's kind of the attempt that Puku is making with Pukupedia, is to enable this cross-language communication of what the book is, what each individual book is, what each title is about, and to make that availability stretch across these various parts of how books are discovered. And I think what we would like to do, certainly what the National Metadata Group would like to do, and what we've encouraged by providing training, we're making up documentation and resources, they're all publicly available, is to ensure that as many people are able to use this as possible. I just wanted to correct one thing with you, Melvin, was you said ONIX is expensive. It's not. It's free. It's free. It's an open source thing. But nothing is really free, is it? I mean, everything's going to cost something. And especially if you're trying to do quite clever and inventive things with it. So if you just want to make a bread and butter sandwich, you're fine. The minute you get out the fancy hams and the cheeses and all of that stuff, things start racking up, and that's kind of what you're doing. Well done. but it is something that has those layers on it. And what we don't want, I think, is to have something like a technology or a system of communicating ideas about books to exclude people. So either because, certainly the languages, the capacity for the languages is already in the standard, so that's great. But if people are untrained or are intimidated by or can't access, then there's no point in it. We're setting up another sort of firewall situation here. And I think, things like I would love to see more people, more publishers, more self-publishers, also more booksellers. I'd love to see more bookshops, little bookshops from wherever, being able to get this information about the books that are being produced here. Thank you. It was really great to see the progress with it, and thanks for the invitation to be here.
Okay, I think, thank you for being so kind. Andrew, because I'm on the working group as well, from PASA's point of view, we obviously engage with each other a lot. So I think thank you for your advice when it's needed, and also when it's not needed. But yeah, no, you're doing a sterling job in making sure that we're represented as a country, actually. So this is one of those things where, like Puku it's a small NGO, small number of people, but in doing what we're doing now for the African languages, we're punching above our weight, because this is an international standard. Let me explain what I mean. At the moment, if you are looking for a book in Oma Katrina's language, in the Nunu language, you're not going to find it on Google, precisely because this kind of work has not happened. No one has attempted to, because there isn't a commercial aspect for it, as an example. And so the work that we're doing extends beyond the languages that we see here. It's going to go to try and encapsulate all the diversity of languages in Southern Africa. And I think that's a fantastic effort. Really with all the collaboration and hopefully with your support, we'll be able to get there, because no one else is doing it. You'd expect it to be a South African Bureau of Standards or a government issue, but it really isn't a priority there. I was, to your point, that I was at the Bosparad, the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture, Bosparad last week with the new Minister, Gayton McKenzie. And he's excited about a lot of things, as you've seen. And so what excites a lot of people is the performance stuff. So it's the music, it's movies, and people tend to forget about books. Because if you think about it, books is where all of that comes from. You are not going to get a movie without the original book that was written by someone. The best-selling movies, even if we had to go into, what some of your children are watching, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the comic books, they're still books. It's still intellectual property that's originated from a human being and communicated on paper. The problem with us being left out in terms of our African languages in that conversation is then you're not represented. And if you're not represented, you don't exist. And when the decisions are being made about those books and what books should be sold, it's not going to happen. So what we're trying to do is to fix that. I hope I'm being clear. Yeah, so that's the importance of that conversation. And I tried. I did try to make that known via those channels. And I'll continue to try. One of the other hats, as Andrew's saying, I'm on the National Book Policy Task Team appointed by the previous minister. So we'll definitely be looking at that. And before I'm chased, we are looking forward to those partnerships with the work that you're doing in terms of your students. If we can help to do workshops with them, I think we can all benefit from that. So yes, definitely. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You can just remain there because there will be questions. And Mervyn, you're okay there? All right, great. So we'll just have a few minutes, just opening the floor for questions, engagement, contributions. Again, we are very, very late, behind schedule. Let me apologize for that, but you know, we were flowing and we were just engaging so nicely. And so let me request Mayor Eleanor to assist me with the questions and engagement. And this is a strategic move because I will be afraid to stop some people from commenting long, right? But I know she will not be afraid to stop you. All right? So let's take 3 comments, questions, anything you want to raise. We'll take 3 and then have a response. And then from then we'll take more if time allows. Is that all right? Perfect. Okay, so here's the mic. And Tate Mohapi, you are acknowledged. You are noted. Is there anyone else? Okay, let's allow Tate Mohapi for now.
Thank you very much for
Over to you.
this opportunity. I won't be standing. I would like to know whether Puku has extended this information to teachers, particularly the lower primary school teachers. I'm asking because, you know, are there teachers in this gathering? You know, most of the time, teachers are left behind and they don't know about what is happening with literature, especially children's literature. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else with a question?
Can we just give that to Nomvuyo to answer briefly?
Mm.
Yes, because I just need to say that this focus on the metadata is actually more geared to librarians. And I think Nomvuyo can say very briefly what is happening with the teachers. Because as a teacher, she's passionate to make sure we don't leave teachers out.
So most of our work at the grassroots level is always with teachers. The book review workshops that Melvin alluded to earlier have always begun, for years now, always began with classroom teachers. And in fact, not just the teachers, but also we think of literacy activists, we think of parents. So many of our workshops involved all those communities so that at the end, the consumers of Pukupedia are not just the parents and others are not just consumers of Pukupedia, but they're also content producers of it.
And maybe we can also commit to say all of us who are here will also spread the word. In my department, we contribute to teacher training, and we have tens of thousands of those teachers. So I am committing to share this information and also to spread it as widely as possible. Is there any other question? I know the strength of hunger pangs as a conditioner to questions. Online, do we have questions? I do not see questions online. The chat is clear. I do not see hands. I do not see anyone raising their hand. Again, yeah, it's the conditioner. There's another question right at the back. Tate, if you could help with the microphone. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. I don't know, I can stand.
It's okay. We can hear you.
Okay. I'm tall enough to be like, to look like I'm standing anyway. No, there's just a few issues, man, I just wanted to raise. Probably a bit uncomfortable or unpalatable. But the issue is really on the academic side. Because I don't know, because I see especially, I would know that probably the institution has had a lot of students who has passed through, done their masters, PhDs on languages and so forth. And I'm not sure whether that work is just lying idling in the shelves, only in the academics channels for only academic purposes, or is it valuable information that is going out there to the people to enrich their knowledge, their understanding of what has been done in terms of academic research in universities. The second question would be, I don't know to what extent can an academic institution like UNISA, for an example, especially the academic side, sorry to put you in the spotlight.
It's okay, they are strong.
They're strong enough, okay, yeah. You know, because I think sometimes in terms of building capacity for its partners, so that they can also have some footprint in the publishing of the academic work in the community. For an example, let's say they take along some of the students where they provide the technical expertise and the technical, to say, supervisors, research supervisors that can assist those students to publish in the academic journals. Does that support? Because sometimes the work of academia, sometimes, especially for black academics, I don't know, except those that stay within the universities. Once they're out of the universities, you find that that's the last time they would be doing the academic work. So some support in terms of getting them to publish in the academic journals, to give them the footprint in some of those published channels as well. You know?
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
No, thanks. Those are the questions.
Thank you so much. Prof, may I ask that in your response you touch on co-publication with M&D students, and then we'll, in addition to what you will say, and then we'll request Prof. Mwepe to speak a bit on the UNISA institutional repository as a way of dissemination. Maybe, Prof, you can also touch on engaged scholarship.
Yeah. All right.
Over to you.
Thank you.
One more question. Could we have that one and then?
Oh, okay.
By the time you hand over, then we finish.
All right, you've noted your responses.
I do.
Let's have our question here as well.
Okay, it's more of a comment. From the discussion that I had in this morning with Nkateko, one thing that she touched on about parents being embarrassed about letting their kids engage with us because they don't know the questions that they will ask. Also, I would love that, because I remember this from my primary school. We used to be mixed with able-bodied learners from grade 1 to grade 4. Until then, the Gauteng Department of Education stopped it, which is one of the things that I think are a huge detriment to what is happening now, because kids are not exposed to people like us. So it becomes a bit difficult even when it comes to engaging with them about disability or the curiosity. Even that's why this work of Puku is important, because it exposes that, but it also introduces the affirmation and the inclusion of people with disabilities. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, we've seen parents, the first thing that they do, when a child just wants to engage, right? Thank you very much. And I could be wrong, but I seem to remember that the government is going back to integrating learners. There are schools where there's integration, mainstream, and so on. So some of the women in leadership we work with in one of my projects, they actually had their principals, head of departments in the schools where there's integration. And that is all.
Thank you, Mom. I would love the panel to comment on this. Ilifa was invited, and the two of us were delegated to go there. It was thank you, an invitation by the Basic Education Department, and we went to Ekurhuleni. The venue was Ekurhuleni. And after all the 2 days deliberations, it became very clear that all of us, individual or collectives of indigenous speakers, indigenous language speakers, at some point, and I want to emphasize at some point, and it's 30 years later now, we recognize we have a serious problem in our hands. We were excited about the fact that we now have the democratic order. But because we left out the 2 L's in the democratic discussions, the process is now that even at our schools, the cultural element is missing. What we recognize, what was clear there, was that here we are producing Western graduates. Umongezi wakamkhize engizathi mangifika kuwe ngithi khabazela usebenzile ngegrade at what you talking about. And when umeketsi wamfuke hakifika wena ale mahani skolong atsamile hantle di thutong tsa gore sebeditse phoka ke fitle ke re hey monna wa se wa sebetsa. And what's this old man saying? And exactly what you're doing now, being nice when our culture is on sale. It's the same thing that happened in Parliament, which I wrote an article about, where isiXhosa was demoted from being an official language on the 3rd of last month, and all people, including the custodians of isiXhosa, all of them laughed. They were in stitches when Minister Pemi Majotina couldn't use her own isiXhosa to vote into office. And we have a tendency, to smile. And I'm saying that type of attitude must change. We cannot allow a situation where a yoke becomes a joke. Instead of removing our indigenous languages from those corners of darkness and bringing them to brightness, no, we join. That's why I sometimes call this whole language issue, it's a self-inflicted pain. But it's becoming worse. That's why I'd like your comment. For us, as the black people who speak all these languages, it means, therefore, we got the right to vote in 1994. And unfortunately, culturally speaking, we are still a minority, though we think we're a majority. Because now, the children that we took from Pimville to Mondio High School, from Guamashu to Durban High School, are now coming back to say, your guys were here, telling the father that his friends were there, your guys were there. And ngesizulu kweya lo, belittling. So I would like your comment. If we don't take this language issue as serious as it's supposed to be, a struggle for all of us now, then some of us will simply say, it is not yet Uhuru.
Siyabonga, Baba. Siyabonga. Maybe part of advocacy would be raising speech therapists who will assist our children in our languages. Because currently, if a child has a speech impediment, she or he has to go to an English-speaking therapist. So how do we reverse the work of the therapist and put on our languages? Let's have a response. Keep your eye on the food.
I'm keeping my eye on the food. I'm standing between you and lunch. There's a couple of things from the academic side that we are doing. First of all, but I'll leave that to Prof. Mwepe, we have an institutional repository that's open. So all the qualifications that have completed, so masters and PhDs, those are uploaded onto the institutional repository, and it's open for everybody. It's not just UNISA that's doing that. Every university in the country has got an institutional repository that's open so that you can actually get access to the original dissertation or thesis that was published. Secondly, what we have for colleagues that's interested in publishing, that's not necessarily in an academic space, is that we have academic associates. The guidelines for academic associates is that you should have published 2 articles. You can then approach a department, not necessarily ours, but English or whichever one you want, and apply to become an academic associate. The requirement is for that you publish 2 articles per annum, and you are financially rewarded 2 years after that, because that's how our D8 system actually functions and operates. So if you are interested in publication or publishing, that's an option that you can go. We also have what we call postdoc fellows. So if you have already done a doctoral degree and you are interested in continuing with your research, you can apply to become a postdoc fellow. You can also co-supervise with a master's or PhD student, especially if it is in your area and it is something that the department, again, that you approach would like to engage in. So that's also an option. And then for us as a department, we also have a partnership, a relationship with the National Library, where we actually promote what we call studentship or mentorship, so that students can develop and grow, and so that they can become publishers. In the library space, we are very fortunate to have LIASA, and the LIASA has got the LIASA in Touch, which is a great opportunity for all of us to go and tell the rest of the country, the rest of the library environment, what is happening in a way that's understandable to everybody. And one of the things that I really think we need to advocate is that LIASA in Touch is actually spread to our communities and not just something that librarians or information professionals focuses on specifically. And then just in terms of the language, we are very privileged in the College of Human Sciences and UNISA, but specifically in our college, that we have got a very specific language policy, which we are trying to implement as far and as widely as possible, where we want our students to either be given the opportunity to express themselves in their mother tongue or be taught in their mother tongue. Now you can imagine it's not always possible, but it is something that we are striving to create, and we've got a couple of departments that's very strong on that: linguistics, African languages. So as a School of Arts within the College of Human Sciences, we are doing a lot of work to promote our African languages and to make sure that there's the metadata that you spoke about, so that we can actually do the translations in the language that the person is talking or speaking. Thanks.
Thank you very much. As maybe we can add the Engage Scholarship projects where,
All right.
Go ahead.
I was actually, when I spoke about the reading project that we have and the literacy project, it is an Engage Scholarship project. The Engage Scholarship projects are projects that we have with communities. So we go out into communities, we engage with communities. That's the storytelling project that I was mentioning that's happening next week. In our department, we've got quite a few such projects. One of them, which you may think is, why do we do it? But we also do computer literacy
in rural areas. And my colleague, Dr. Nosibia, is sitting there, or was sitting there. It's his project. And if I have to tell you, you know, we budget for maybe 100 people that's going to come and do the training, and then 500 people come. There's such a need. And then we have to go back to the college and say, can we have more money, please? Because we want to help. So there's so many opportunities for collaboration and for engagement. All we need to do is to get to or sit around the table and try and see how much we can do with the resources that we've got available.
Yeah. Thank you, Prof.
Thanks. Thank you so much. I think just to go to the academic question from the floor about the academic question, it's just, I think there's just one thing to say is that it's possible to, through something like ONIX, to connect your formal academic work and your publications of poetry or plays or your kids' literature that's there. ONIX specifically is for books, but it talks to other things. So it talks to other formats and websites, blogs, all of that kind of thing. So there's an application that could be there. Just to speak to the accessibility issue, this is something that we're working on at the moment, is to ensure that even though, you know, one may have a digital book which could have a text-to-speech kind of availability, or the haptic feedback that Melvin was talking about earlier, you need to be able to tell people that this book exists and that it is capable of doing the following things using the following machines. So these standards are evolving, they're not fixed. We have quite a strong voice in that. Melvin's alluded to this, where we are able to assert that these are the things that are needed. These are the things that are needed for our language or our region, or for my particular needs, or for the type of book that I'm producing. And it does call for that kind of involvement, that kind of level of engagement with it. It is quite technical. It is not interesting at most points, but it does need that kind of level, that engagement from publishers, from authors, from librarians, to be able to say these are the ways that will go. And just to speak to the gentleman's question about language, I think you're absolutely right. I think this isn't just a technocratic solution, is not the solution to this. This is a matter of political will. And I think if you're, I mean, I just make books. That's my job. But what I'm conscious of within that, and I think a lot of people are, is that these tools that we have can enable us to do some things. We rely on you. We rely on you as authors. We rely on you as researchers, as activists, to tell us where to go with this. What we do is make books and we make them available. If we get that feedback from you, we're able to change the standards, change the availability, ensure that we can help with that.
No, thanks. I think in responding to Dr. Stole's question or comment, like Andrew indicated, I think there are two things for me. It's a political will and also a societal response. I mean, as parents, I have 3 kids. I made a mistake with the first one, the firstborn. You know, as a first-time parents, you don't know what to do raising kids. But with the 2, my second-born studied in a private school, and he studied Sepedi up to matric, and he did well. I mean, he got a distinction. My daughter is doing grade 10. At grade 10, I forced her to drop 1 and do Sepedi again. And she's doing well. I mean, it's not difficult. And these are the things that as parents, we know it in our villages and all. Kids will be going visit their grandparents, and we are the first to say, she can't speak, you know, and these are the things that we promote as parents. I think we need to make that conscious decisions as we influence the school language policies. I mean, why schools can't hire teachers to teach these languages? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for those comments. There's a question online, and I'm not sure who can assist here about children's literature competitions and the prizes. It's a question on the requirement for police clearance, that it's expensive, and people have to travel to police stations to get that clearance. And sometimes it's a waste of money because they don't even advance to the next stage. I'm not sure who can assist with that question on.
You can get clearance from Postnet. They must just go to Postnet.
It's, yeah, they spoke. Thank you very much. It's about the money that you have to pay and why one has to get a police clearance in the first place.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not from UNISA, but I was part of the team that constructed the concept of the prize. So the reason for the police background check is actually a very important child safeguarding element. The ultimate winners of the prize are going to end up being facilitated to enter schools. If that individual has difficult history with children, it won't be possible. And so it actually isn't prohibitive. If at the moment where you extend and go up levels within the UNISA prize, you simply reach out to the UNISA panel, you explain to them your limitations, cost, distance, what have you, and I am sure that UNISA team will support and help. But it cannot be that the answer is not to check people's backgrounds with children.
Thank you so much for that response. It really helps. I hope we get the response online that if there are issues, financial issues, blocking a person from getting the police clearance, please reach out to the organizers, but canceling the clearance and the check is not an option. But let's reach out and get assistance and not be dissuaded from participating because of the financial issues. Matt, did you want to add?
Yes, I just want to say one last thing before we hand over, is that in response to Babu Sitole and Ilifa's concerns, we have been discussing an action which I think we should share here, is that we're appealing to Parliament, and we've started the process for them to celebrate as Parliament a special sitting for International Mother Language Day. Because we think as policymakers, if they have that sitting, it may sensitize them to what is not being done. But also to acknowledge the language services in Parliament. We had the chairperson, is it Hilda? Is Mohale on the Sisutu panel, who's in the Parliamentary Language Services. It's really a very important service. And I think that, you know, when we talk about political will in terms of language, what happens is that the ideas are there. For example, we have PenSelb, we have language units, but I always say it's like a tailor. You give your tailor, you tell him you want a 3-piece suit, and you give him 1 meter of material. And that's what we have. We have, the ideas are there, but you just don't have the resources to match those ideas. And I think that we will share. We haven't discussed this with UNISA yet, and I hope UNISA will come on board to do the advocacy to get Parliament to do that International Mother Language Day celebration, a special sitting in Parliament.
Oh, Chair, I'm disappointed.
Thank you.
He didn't tell you that you buy material for me. You won't be able to get a suit.
Thank you very much for the responses. We really, Prof, did you want to add?
Are you looking at me?
Yes, Prof.
Is this mic?
Oh, I thought you wanted to say something.
But I could use it anyway. You know, there's a category of potential readers which I don't know whether Puku has considered. If we have not, maybe we could look at that. These are adult new readers who are like children, but you can't give them children's content. Yeah, that's the point I would like to suggest.
Sure.
Adult readers, new readers, but with adult content.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prof. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't even know where to begin to talk about time, so I will not. Yeah, so let's rather use this time profitably by thanking everyone. Could we have a round of applause for the speakers, presenters, and everyone who participated, and the questions and the contributions. We appreciate you all. Let me then hand over to the vote of thanks. I will not then come back to the podium after the vote of thanks, but I will request that we get direction on how we proceed that side, Ispetne, for sure. We need direction there. So after the vote of thanks, I will not come back here. Let me thank you for being an amazing audience and for just loaning us your day and afternoon. Let me then invite Dr. Lesiba Ledwaba. Thank you very much, respondents. We appreciate you. Dr. Lesiba Ledwaba, the Acting Director, Library and Information Sciences. This is your time. And this is your opportunity. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Peace. Uktula. Siyabonga.
Good afternoon, colleagues. And I'm not Dr. Lesiba Ledwaba, but I happen to be here on his behalf. He has to unfortunately rush to attend another important meeting. So I will try and do what he was supposed to do. Allow me to be in between your branch because lunch has long passed. So we will be having the brunch. Okay, thank you. Mine is to do the vote of thanks. I would like to start with Ms. Zanele Ndlovu. Siyabonga. Siyabonga ukudlala makhwenyana. Udlale kamnandi. Thank you so much. I don't want to put you at the end, Dr. Tulile Shandupetla, because at some point we normally forget about you. When you are the one who steered this ship up to the end, we really appreciate and keeping up the audience intact, because shouldn't you be here, we would all be gone by now. Thank you so much for steering this ship. My ED, Prof. Mwepe. Okay, let me see what I should say to you. Thank you for the warm welcome. And so if you don't know what I'm trying to say, I don't know. You have to consult him after this. And for having welcomed us to celebrate this launch of the encyclopedia, and let us continue to make this marriage work, as you put it. Thank you so much, Prof. You are not clapping hands for him. Okay. I was getting worried. Ntate Mabuto Sitol. Thank you for reminding us that the language is actually a carrier of culture. And language is actually our heritage. And we need to celebrate the language that we have, different languages that we have. We appreciate having you here, because it's not always that we have people of your caliber here. Thank you, Papa. Okay, I'm trying to also check what Dr. Lesiba wanted to say, so don't mind me. Moving on to Me Eleanor Sisulu. Thank you, Me. for taking us about the journey of the Puku and introducing us to your team. We really felt part of the team when you just introduce and acknowledge all the team members. You are doing a wonderful job. Keep it up. And thank you for coming and gracing this occasion. Dr. Nzana, can I just say, Dr. Nzana there, Mukuani. Yeah, I try to. Thank you, May, for sharing with us the catalog project that went through. There's a Sotho one that was recommended for books. What we were trying to do as we grow up. And thank you for acknowledging the contributions that were made, and we really appreciate. Prof. Jacobs, that simply means you pay before you can actually do the work. So she has reminded us on that, and thank you so much for gracing our occasion. Another round of applause. Thank you. Don't be dismayed. I'm almost there. Miss Nkateko Mabas. Yes. What did you say? What did you share with us? The work that you shared with us, you said a mouthful actually. I don't even want to try and start or explain what you said to us about the work that you do at Puku, especially to look after people with disabilities, and also to alert us not to ignore people like that. And as the library as well, to take care of, you said you're going to give us feedback. I'm looking forward for that, so that we learn and improve on things like that we might not be aware of. But through you, because you are going through that, we will be aware and we will like to improve wherever we are. So thank you so much for the wisdom and for having shared with us what you need, what we have to expect, what we have to be alerted of. Thank you, Me. Mr. Melvin. Yeah. You know you've just done that in Venda. Oh, you know. Okay. Oh, studio phone is off now. Because I'm also using your phone to check the things that Dr. Lisiba has put on. Yeah, we really want to thank you for having shared with us how we can preserve our language, and we're looking forward for that digitization part of it, so that we can all learn and we preserve that information, because every time, if we don't have that, we might lose anything. We had the fire thing in UCT, so in digitizing, we are actually trying to have a backup. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Okay. Our respondents, I can't say much about that. You have said, you have tried to lay the foundation, you have tried to guide us moving forward. And remember, we've got this marriage that is, I don't know, Prof, if it's COP or ANC, whatever that kind of. So, but we were told to, until death tear us apart. So we can't detach ourselves from that marriage. So keep up the marriage and the a good part of it. More collaboration, as we have said, and more engagement, so that we are able to maintain our relationship. It's a very good thing. Without each one of you in this marriage, the marriage won't work. So we appreciate all the questions, the comments that have come through from our audience, both in person here and online. So we will work out, and it builds this relationship. It takes us forward so that we are able to see what should work and what should not work. Mtate Madumo, Mr. Andrew Joseph, and Prof. Lorette Jacobs. Thank you so much for all your inputs. I couldn't do much or to not thank each and every one of you here for making this day possible, and for our presenters, our speakers, our distinguished guests, colleagues, and Prof. Mwepe's cousins, and everyone who have attended both here and online. We really appreciate your time. And Dr. Tulile, we really appreciate the time that you also took to steer this ship again up to this end. If I may have left out any, please know that I acknowledge and appreciate your presence here. And thank you so much for coming. And lunch will be served after this, I guess. And we do have an exhibition down to go past in the Van Skyke room to check what we have. Ostud, I think now is to acknowledge and give each of our speakers a token of appreciation, to just say, with this, we really appreciate. Okay. Ms. Anele, could you kindly come and get your token of appreciation from the... Oh, they say photo. Okay. Thank you. Are you done? And the next one is Dr. Shandu Petla. Oh, yes.
This is when we say we love you. We love you. We love you.
Thank you. Thank you. The next one I have to jump, Professor Mwepe, yes. Mr. Mabuto Sitole. You are not off the hook.
This photo I wanted.
Mayor Illinois Sisulu, please come forth to receive your token of appreciation. Thank you. We move on to Ms. Nkateko Mabasa. Thank you, Mayor. You can come through.
Thank you. I'll carry this for you after the photo.
And moving on, may I kindly ask Mr. Melvin to come forth, please? And we are almost there, Ostud, don't worry. Ntate Madumo, please come forth.
Our National Library leadership.
Thank you. That's our #1 librarian. Ntate Andrew Joseph, please come forth. Thank you so much. I think that's the end of the list. Whoever did not call, we ran out of the gifts before we could give each one of you. But thank you very much. Enjoy your lunch.